it be true that the Philadelphia Eagles really were a tale of two teams last season, and maybe winning absolutely is the best medicine? We'll talk about NFLPA grades and, of course, sacrifices made by one of your Philadelphia 76ers. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
This is Kincade and Salciunas.
Joel Embiid and the 76ers are considering alternative options on his injured knee. The alternative option is the only option. It's shut him down.
I think now we're getting to the point where people are going to open their eyes and just say, okay, we know what the story is. Let's stop hoping that it's going to be different.
Kincade and Salciunas. John Kincade, Andrew Salciunas.
97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
And a good Thursday morning, Philadelphia. I'm Andrew Salciunas alongside my man, John Kincade. Johnny, good morning.
And a good morning to you.
It is a beautiful day outside. I went short sleeves this morning, man. I didn't even put on a sweatshirt or a coat or anything walking in out of the house this morning.
Now, it's going to be raining when we leave.
That's okay.
But it is okay.
Do to me.
It is nice to have the warmth.
Well, yeah, exactly, especially now that it's been like 3 days. Because the first 48-degree day, it's probably a little chillier, but now that the atmosphere has been warmed up a little bit, I think that's how it works. That's how science and weather works, right?
Sure. Is that how it works?
I walked outside, 48 degrees, felt like 68 degrees, and it is a beautiful day. And it's a beautiful day.
You sound very positive on this Thursday. Well, good reason. Championship Thursday.
I'm just in a good mood.
Good.
Once the weather turns, all sun, everything's beautiful.
And then we only have like 10 days till we turn the clocks.
Which is also
and
beautiful.
That's absolutely.
You got vacation coming up. Connor's got vacation coming up. I got vacation coming up. It is a beautiful time right now.
It is. It's a beautiful time to be alive.
Now, it's also a beautiful time to be an Eagles fan because the Philadelphia Eagles obviously won Super Bowl 59, which is why it is, as you said, a championship Thursday morning here on Kincade and Salciunas. But it's amazing. We have talked about this at length. The things that the Eagles clearly had to overcome in order to win.
Okay.
And we talked about the collapse last year. Sure. Obviously, that's where it all started. And then it gets to the point of whether or not Nick Sirianni should keep his job. Jalen Hurts and Nick Sirianni have a beef, right?
Yes.
Jalen Hurts never really said anything glowingly about Nick Sirianni. There was a lot of reporting being done about the disconnect between the two of them. Like, this was a legit beef that had to be worked out during training camp. And then even after the season started, it wasn't necessarily worked out, and we needed the reporting of Jay Glazer to tell us that Brandon Graham went to Jalen Hurts' house during the bye week and said, yo, dude, lighten up.
And, of course, Big Dom found a way to insert himself right into the story.
Yes, he was a part of the story as well. I wonder where Jay got the info.
It's amazing.
So there was a lot that the team had to overcome, and then you fast forward to the Panthers game where it was hideous. You and I were both in the building for that one, and A.J. Brown talks about the passing offense and how it needs to improve.
Right.
And then Brandon Graham opens up his mouth about the beef between Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown, to which recently A.J. Brown has confirmed it. Remember all the crap that we had to deal with?
You guys are making up stories.
You're making this story up, even though Brandon Graham straight up freaking said it, and then we react to it. Where are the problems because we're reacting to it, and A.J. Brown since confirmed it.
Can that guy get money back for his plane?
Oh, my God, I forgot
overhead?
all about that.
Hopefully he gets the money back on that.
The fake news plane when it was a player of the Eagles who said it.
It's unbelievable.
Anyways.
But thankfully,
good for the Eagles.
Thankfully, it all worked out.
For overcoming all of it. Now, yesterday, the NFL Players Association, this is the third year they're doing it. This hasn't been going on for a while.
What's that? No, it's been going on for a while.
Has it?
Oh, no, it's been going on for a while.
I only remember over the last couple of years. But the NFL Players Association, they do an anonymous poll from the players on each respective team, and they give grades for a bunch of things. The organization,
their
owner,
head coach, right, all those things.
And the Eagles graded out pretty poorly. Now, what people have to understand is this came out during training camp. This is when they do the voting and the grading and all that kind of stuff. So there were a lot of people when the articles and all the screenshots came out yesterday, the voting, they were shocked. Like, oh, my God, this team won the Super Bowl and they graded out this poorly. This happened during training camp. So
it was
when all this stuff was first starting with all these beefs.
Yes, there was still beef going on, and there was beef, obviously, with more than just the head coach.
Yeah.
And more than just some of the other people in the building.
Absolutely. And we will give you some of these grades coming up in the next segment. But, again, today's discussion is wow, this team was truly special, not just for how talented they were, right? We knew that Saquon Barkley was special, and A.J. Brown, Devontae. Obviously, the defense caught the world by storm. We didn't think that they were going to be number one.
No.
But this defense, talent-wise, was truly special. But what else makes this team very special? I know we've talked about this a lot. You don't want to give too much credit for the person that sets the fire
Putting it out.
to put it out.
No.
But I will give them credit for them being able to fix a lot of the issues that they created.
Correct.
In order to overcome it to the point where they're Super Bowl
No,
champions.
I mean, when you're champions, when you get to that level, it's all praise. It's amazing praise. I don't give credit for fixing what you break, but I do give credit for you're a champion. And these guys are champs, and they deserve all the love, all the praise, all the respect. And guys like Nick Sirianni really overcame a lot.
Yeah.
And it has been to all of our benefit.
And you know what I can't wait for? It's going to happen at some point this offseason. There's going to be a Tim McManus article or a Jeff McClain article or a podcast. He does the Uncovering the Birds
Sure.
podcast of like the real story.
The real
The real and
story.
inside story.
Yeah, exactly.
Of what the hell was going on the first like half of the season or maybe first third of the season. Because I don't think these grades got better over the first couple weeks of the season.
No.
Like,
I
we
think
know
that
the bye week was a big part of this season, and then obviously the next week is when Nick Sirianni has his meltdown against the Browns. Like, I don't think
the bye week, these grades may have actually been lower
it could have been.
on a lot of these issues.
They were losing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were 2-2,
But they were not playing well, and they were not doing what
they
was
barely
expected
beat
of
the
them.
Saints. Bad loss against the Falcons. Horrible loss against the Bucks. Granted, all the injuries, but
Sure.
it was a bad loss. A team that didn't even look like they showed up to play.
You barely survive a terrible Saints team,
Yeah.
and then it all comes together.
And then it comes together. And so I can't wait for that story to come out. Like, what was the moment? It wasn't just the offensive lineman going to Sirianni saying, let's run the ball more. That may have been the moment that changed the offense for the better. But what was the moment that kind of got everybody in shape? And I'm not saying physically. I'm saying mentally. Like,
that may have been the catalyst to it, though, is that, look, it's anything. When things start to feel good around your work, everything goes a little better at work.
yeah.
When you're on a little bit of a roll and you feel like things are positive, it makes every workday better. So maybe the change on the offense is exactly what they needed to jumpstart some positivity. Everybody feels better walking in the building. Everybody, look, winning cures a lot.
It does.
It does cure a ton.
And look, you think about it. So they barely beat the Browns, right? The Sirianni meltdown
Right.
day they barely beat Cleveland.
I've said it before. They barely beat the Browns at home, barely beat the Jags at home, barely beat Carolina at home, barely beat a terrible Saints team. 4 of their wins were against 4 of the worst teams in football, and they looked bad in every one of those games.
Did, but then
they survived.
after the Browns game, I know the other games happened afterward, but they beat the Browns 20-16. Then they just destroy the Giants and destroy the Bengals. So something happened. Something clicked.
Bengals game was a 1-score game in the fourth quarter. Let's be honest.
And then they
here.
beat them by 20.
I understand, but it was that game was still hanging in the balance. When that 4th and 1 play happens,
Right.
where Cooper DeJean, that's a 7-point game. You never know what happens at that point.
I'm just fascinated to find out one day what clicked for the Eagles. And then all of a sudden they turned things around. And there is not one Eagles fan that's out there that could tell me that they thought they were going to be fine this entire time. And even though these grades, I don't know how much people make of them, it didn't look great for the Eagles. This was when everything was kind of going poorly.
Yes.
So something happened.
Well, it was when everybody was showing up to start a brand new year. And it's obvious that there was still dissension with the head coach. And you were talking about, well, the coach still got a good grade.
Well, we'll get into that coming up
those
next.
type of things. But I'm saying to you is there was still dissension going on.
Right.
In the ranks.
So coming up next, we'll give you the NFL PA grades. Now, again, this is voted on by the Eagles.
Yes.
The players, all right?
During training camp.
This isn't Andrew Salciunas and John Kincade and Jeff McClain, the evil media, hot takes. Like
Andrew DeCecco handing out ballots.
Right, no, these were the players voted on certain things, and the Eagles did not grade out well. Now, again, this was during training camp.
Yes, that's important to know.
This topic is much like the Jay Glazer report. I don't know why people took it negatively. To me, I looked at it as a positive.
They were trying to work something out.
And they did.
Yes.
And so I am happy that the grade came out yesterday, and it tells me that there was some sort of mental fortitude that happened with this team where they put everything behind them and they just freaking won. And they won Super Bowl 59. So we'll give you the grades coming up next. It is Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli, Bill Colarulo, and Ray Dunn. They have a lot to say about Philadelphia sports.
So, the Eagles, the tale of two teams. We know all the beef that happened after last year's collapse. We know that there was a lot of drama during training camp. Remember the, in my opinion, forced video of Hurts and Sirianni
on the golf cart?
in the golf cart together, smiling.
That was really painful.
That's the you're gritting through your teeth. Everybody smile, all right?
Hey, jump on the cart.
Smile, all right?
It's a great picture.
They're taking pictures for us now. Smile. It was very forced, and then you know that it was forced because it continued.
It continued into
right before the bye week. Jalen Hurts we have our moments. Remember that was one of his lines about Sirianni.
We have our moments.
To their credit,
They worked it out.
They worked all of it out, even the locker room issues.
And all the issues that some fans wanted to believe weren't real,
Right.
they worked out.
So
And by the way, we're both praising them for it. It's
Yes.
awesome.
No, again,
it's one of
that's
the
why-
great. It's honestly one of the better stories about this championship team coming together.
John, I never understood the day we played the audio. I mean, you and I were on the same page. I never understood why Jay Glazer got so much crap from Eagles fans with the report. Maybe it was the timing because the Brandon Graham. It was after the Panthers.
It was after
fiasco.
the Right.
He has the report that Brandon Graham and Big Dom went to Jalen Hurts' house during the bye week. And I know that BG on social media said that this is a lie.
Which was
not a lie.
Not a lie.
Jay Glazer straight up set on with Mike Missanelli at Radio Row. Yeah, they tried making me take one for the team, and I said no. That's I
not
don't
how
play.
this is
I
gonna
don't
work.
play for your team. I report, which is kind of.
Wonder where he found out.
By the way, kind of dirty of the Eagles to do that.
Wonder where he found out about the meeting between Jalen Hurts, Brandon Graham, and Big Dom.
Yeah.
Wonder where he found out about how did Jay Glazer find out about that secret meeting?
I don't know.
Because I guarantee it wasn't Jalen Hurts.
But I'm amazed that people were so upset by it. To me, that was a positive.
I think
story.
it was a positive.
And it turned out to be positive.
If people find, look, I don't care if you're. I'm just glad that you finally act like adults and fix your problems.
Yeah.
I'm not going to rip you for trying to fix something that everybody wants fixed.
Right.
Like, to me, that's hey, good job. Now go on and win something. And
So
they did.
the Eagles' overall grade put them 22nd out of the 32 teams in the
Which is
NFLPA
shocking.
player poll. It is. But again, timing. This was during training camp following the collapse because they were much higher the previous year. So treatment of families has always been kind of low for the Eagles. They got a C-. They don't have a daycare option the day of the game.
Which I consider to be shocking because knowing other NFL teams and knowing one of them like a lot,
Yeah.
I can't believe that they don't have a place for players to drop their kids.
Yeah.
Because that is because wives always want to come to games to be there to support their husbands. And a lot of franchises have these huge daycare centers set up. And honestly, all you'd have to do is daycare workers that are licensed, a large room area, and the kids can go to daycare.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of the billions of dollars that
Like you could
they
do that.
have, they could make that work.
Right.
Food and dining was 7th, an A-. I remember Jason Kelsey, after he did his retirement speech, he went to the cafeteria to thank all the workers, which is really cool.
What about A.J. Brown? Brought gifts for all of them
Yeah,
this
that's
year.
right.
He brought gifts for all of them. That always gets high grades.
Nutrition and dietitian, 28th with a B-. Locker room, 25th with a D+.
Now, I'm going to tell you that. That's unacceptable. And the reason why, Howie has been shopping in the SEC. I have been in I've been in the Alabama locker room, Georgia, Clemson, been in their facilities. It's embarrassing. The locker, like I guarantee you, the Georgia Dog players,
Yeah.
they look at the Eagles locker room and go, oh my gosh, this is like minor league baseball compared to what they're used to in college.
By the way, team travel got an F.
That's because they don't have first-class seats.
Yes. And
Which, by the way, that's unacceptable. That's unacceptable.
for an NFL program,
NFL
a
team.
successful one like the
They
Eagles.
should have a charter plane where everybody has a first-class seat.
Now-
I flew in the NHL and had that,
Right.
which is crazy.
All right, coming up next, Nick Sirianni finished 18th. Now, John and I both look at this differently.
Yes.
So we'll get into that coming up next. Also coming up next, we have another discussion to open up, and it involves someone making a major sacrifice to help make the Sixers a championship contender yet again, Johnny.
What did Daryl Morey do today?
Oh, it wasn't D. Morey. Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Sixers drop another one. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Sixers fell again last night, this time to the Knicks, 110-105 the final. The conversation continues to grow about the Sixers trying to improve their draft pick in the final stretch of the season. Paul Hudrick joined the best show ever yesterday and said that tanking seems to be the better option for the team right now.
Until I see a game where Tyrese Maxey just goes nuts and scores 40 and they rally behind him and they win, I think this team is better off trying to accumulate losses
And that sounds all too familiar to folks who sat through the process, but it may be the best for the Sixers right now. They're off till Saturday when they'll host the Red Hot Warriors. The Flyers take on the Penguins tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. NFL Combine begins today in earnest as the top college prospects take the field in Indianapolis. We'll keep you updated on all the news out of the Combine right here on The Fanatic. This update brought to you by Robert Half. 9 out of 10 hiring managers are having difficulty hiring today. Robert Half is here to help. At Robert Half, they know talent. Visit roberthalf.com today. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Philadelphia sports.
Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic on this championship Thursday morning. You can text the show at 610-632-0975. We didn't really have a question to start the show. We're just celebrating the Philadelphia Eagles, who won Super Bowl 59, in case you guys needed a reminder.
Well, that's what the championship Thursday comes from.
The tale of two teams. And this starts off last season, the collapse, the drama during training camp, OTAs, you name it, the issues for the first 4 weeks of the season, the magical bye week, but it still kind of bled into week 6 when Sirianni had his issues.
After the bye week, I mean, everybody does talk about that. After the bye week, you had the terrible Browns game. You had a terrible game with the Jags. You had that awful game that we witnessed. You know, you were in the stands for the Carolina game. There was
but that was after Ravens and Rams. Like, I
understand there was still a lot of crap to get through that they had to find their way through.
See, now I took the Panthers game, even though I was miserable sitting there.
Look ahead.
You guys knew that I was pro run the football. Like I never wavered on. I need to see the passing offense, and then it was beautiful. We saw it against the Steelers the very next week, but I never needed to see Hurts throw. I thought you could just keep on winning the way that they were winning, and that proved to work in the Packers game and then the Rams game. And then, fortunately, Hurts was able to throw all over the place against the Commanders and and obviously the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. So I wasn't as bothered by the Panthers game. I was more so bothered by what happened after the Panthers game with the Brandon Graham nonsense. So there were still issues at that point of the season, to your point.
I do wonder if I've wondered for a while if Brandon Graham would be back. And I'm not sure that I think the Eagles were ready to move on. I think they're ready to move on. Turn the page, get to the next level. He goes out as a champion as he deserves to. But I think the Eagles were ready to sort of move on there.
Well, maybe he's retiring.
There's a lot of I don't think leaks in a locker room are good.
No.
I don't think that's ever good.
No, and there was too much of it.
Jalen Hurts had a meeting at his house with Big Dom and Brandon Graham. Somehow Jay Glazer found out about it. He didn't find out about it from Jalen Hurts. I can assure you of that one.
Yeah.
So it's one of the two.
Right.
That he hears it from. And I don't think that goes over necessarily well enough.
No, nobody wants to hear that. All right, so before we get to the major sacrifice that somebody on the Sixers is making.
Amazing. That's great. So people with the Sixers sacrificing for us.
You and I look at the grading for Nick Sirianni differently. So, again, the NFLPA player poll. This happens during training camp, so this is before everything was great. This is before the Eagles went on a Super Bowl run and won the Super Bowl.
That's important to know because some people will look at it and go, oh, wow.
Right. Now, Nick Sirianni ranked 18th among the 32 head coaches in the NFL, which you said in the text message that not just that one, but the entire thing was damning.
I think it's damning because it shows you that things were rather broken in training camp.
Yes.
To me.
Coming off of last year's collapse, absolutely.
When I look at that, but I admire, again, in the end, I admire that Nick Sirianni turned that all around.
Right, and I bet you he's top 10 next year. Like, I bet you all these grades are going to flip next year, except maybe travel.
And the locker room.
Yeah, the locker room's not going to magically get better.
They're not changing the locker room.
And in case people are wondering, we're talking about, like, the actual setup of the locker room, not, like,
and by the way,
like issues with players.
And I'm here to tell you, the locker rooms aren't good. They're not SEC standard.
Right.
They're not
let alone NFL.
They're not Clemson standard.
Right.
Like these guys are coming from big time college football programs. And they get there and the locker rooms are not up to snuff.
Right.
They're not the caliber of what they had in college. Imagine that if you played college football and you get to the NFL and you go, wow, I don't even have.
Now, I don't make too much of it because I texted you guys back yesterday. The Chiefs always grade very low in this. And, they've won how many?
They've won
3 Super Bowls in the last 6 years.
Okay, but does it?
And they've been to 5.
All right, well, a lot of that is Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I'm saying is I don't think it totally matters if you have the right makeup of the team.
Yeah, but I think that you're while everything's going great, nothing matters. You got to worry about stuff, though. You do worry about stuff. So when things aren't all going great, that stuff becomes more important.
Right.
And it is important to free agents, by the way. The facilities that you have and everything are huge to free agents, just as they are to college kids when they're being recruited.
Yeah.
It matters.
But Sirianni is 18th, but he got an A minus. And so
Okay.
I made the joke, like,
If that was your academic record.
if an A minus is bad, then I should not have a college degree.
Maybe true.
And by the way, in life, if I got an A minus on something, but there were 17 better grades in front of me, I'm still skipping out of that college room, high school room. I'll do a heel click.
Here's what I would
because
say.
I got an A minus.
Here's what I would say to you. Would you believe you're an A minus husband? Would you get an A minus grade from Christy's husband? I bet you would.
I would get an A plus.
You get an A plus?
Damn right, man.
I think I would get it. I think I'd get an A minus.
You almost said C.
No, I get an A minus. But what I'm saying to you is, if then the poll, though, we found out Andrew got an A minus from Christy, but he was the 18th ranked husband in his neighborhood. That's different.
See, I thought you were going to say
That's
there were
different.
17 better guys in her life.
Like
That would've-
I see the husbands.
Gosh.
I see the husbands in my neighborhood. And look, I'm a notch above my neighbors. There's if the wives were putting out rankings,
Hey, man, A minus
I see some of these.
A minus is an A minus in
But
my
I'm saying,
book.
you see, you're looking at that, but I'm looking at it as the people you're being compared to are your peers. So, like your neighborhood, if you were the 18th best husband in your neighborhood, that's not as good. And so there was what it shows you is he overcame it, and that is applause-worthy. That is absolutely applause-worthy.
He overcame an A minus.
Yes, he overcame the fact that the other coaches are much more liked.
I would be skipping if somebody told me I was an A minus radio host.
Yeah, I think A minus is great. Like, I think that's a positive thing.
all about
The
it.
other thing with these rankings that you have to think about here, and it's not totally true across the board, but remember something about this Eagles roster, how young they are. And even the guys that have been in the league for a couple years, there are a lot of players on this Eagles team that have never played anywhere else in the NFL, that don't really have the frame of reference for comparing the Eagles to another organization. Does that change the way the grades happen? Like guys that just come out of college and all they've ever known is the Eagles locker room for a home locker room. Guys that have never had another head coach in the NFL. There's a lot of dudes on this team that have never played anywhere else.
I would tell you, Connor, here's the only thing I would say to you. I know for a fact that there are opposing stadiums where the Eagles players would go to and their visiting locker room would be better than what they've got.
Right. It's not across the board.
So, and the majority of the since Howie's been shopping in the right place, these guys know what a quality locker room is.
No, I got you. I'm just saying, like, you have a lot of guys on this team that haven't bounced around to other organizations. They get to Philly and they're like, wow, this place is subpar compared to the rest of the NFL. Now, it may be compared to what they had in college. It may be compared to, like, other things they've experienced coming up in football, but it's hard to validate grades as much if you don't have a comparison, and a large part of this roster does not have a comparison.
That's true.
Well, they're only comparing it to what they've known. They're pro football players. They've come up through top-notch college football programs. And if Jeffrey Lurie's running an operation where the facilities aren't as good as they had in college, that's a problem.
Yeah, but if
This is a $4 billion
I got you.
franchise.
I'm not absolving all of these grades. I'm just saying a first-year professor handing out an A versus a guy who's been doing it for a decade that's seen 10 years worth of work and knows what an A grade is, it's a little bit different, the grading structure. I think that's logical.
I get what you're saying. All right, so the other thing that we got to get into,
Okay.
a major sacrifice was made, Johnny.
Well, I love this. Is that you mean the Sixers are trying to do something to go out there and do right by us?
Here's the funny thing, and it's not funny. I just have to laugh so I don't cry at this point. Just 2 days ago, there was a report that Joel Embiid may actually have meniscus replacement procedure where the doctors might break a bone in his hip to realign the joint and alleviate pressure.
What?
That's
Terrible.
not what I'm talking about.
Okay.
That's not the sacrifice that we're about to tell you about. The sacrifice is Paul George, who has his podcast.
What?
Made an announcement yesterday, Johnny.
What did he say? He's doing what? Like, I mean, what would be the sacrifice?
We'll play it for you. Take a listen. Here was Paul George on his podcast, P.
Fellas, it's no secret. This season is up to this point, man. It hasn't been what we envisioned. I know my goal when I first signed with Philadelphia was to bring a championship to these amazing fans here. I still remain positive about that, and that is still the case and where I'm coming from. With that being said, though, I want to let the Podcast P family know that after today's episode with Dwight, I plan to take a break from the pod just to focus on getting my body right, getting mentally right, and, help this squad make a push towards our goal to finish the season out, give ourselves a chance to be in contentions to compete for a championship.
What?
So, Johnny, this came out yesterday before they played the Knicks, losing 110-105 in an admirable effort at the Garden. But before that loss, their record was 20-37.
Are you freaking kidding me?
And now he decides that it is time to put the podcast on hold to try to help the Sixers really focus and make a push for the playoffs. Coming up next, we'll react to this more.
Oh, my gosh.
I think he thought this would go over a lot better than how it did. I think Paul George just completely missed how deep people are with this team and how down they are on this team that he thought that would be good. It is Kincade and Salciunas on this Thursday morning. Thank God for the Eagles. 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Vitalico.
So I Don't Cry. Paul George announces on his podcast yesterday that he's going to take a break from the podcast to focus on the push for the playoffs for the Philadelphia 76ers. Now, look.
This is incredible.
I don't know how long his podcast is, and I don't know how many times a week he does it. I don't watch Paul George for his podcast. I watch him for buckets, right?
Have you ever listened to it, by the way?
I only the clips that get posted on social media.
I've listened to, not a lot of it, but I've listened to probably a lot of episodes since he became a Sixer.
Yeah.
He could take my class. My kids could teach him a thing or two.
I just, like...
It's not a good podcast.
I don't think it's the reason why he's struggling this year or why the reason the Sixers are struggling.
Could be part of it.
I honestly don't think so. Like, honestly, Darius Slay's podcast to me is more detrimental to a team because he literally straight up calls out his teammates, but apparently the teammates are fine with it because they love him and he's voted for a captain.
He's a better podcaster, though, too.
Yeah, that's true. Paul George's podcast, I don't know how much it impacts the team, but I have to laugh that he thinks he did something yesterday. And I really believe that Paul George dropped that line and thought...
To the great fans of Philadelphia?
Like, he thought this was going to get,
that?
like, a pat on the back or, like, a thanks PG. Dude, your team, before last night's loss, was 20-37, spiraling out of control. I don't think your podcast had anything to do with it, but you're acting like I did something for the city. I'm doing something for this team. And, dude, quite frankly, you've done nothing.
Can I give you a theory?
What do you got? Oh, I have a theory as well. I wonder if it's the same one.
Okay. Whisper in Connor's ear your theory as I tell mine, okay? So that way we'll see if it is the same theory. My theory is that much like there was a youngster in the locker room this year who was willing to call out Joel Embiid, and that's Tyrese Maxey, I think that when a team is struggling, sometimes things get aired out in beef, and I would guess that someone in that locker room said, why don't you get your head out of your backside and stop worrying about a podcast and start worrying about this team where you're making $200 freaking million from and start giving this your entire focus. That's my guess, because I can promise you this. If Tyrese Maxey had no problem calling out Joel Embiid, he'd have no problem calling out Paul George.
We are not on the same page.
Okay, what was your theory?
Mine's even more sicko. He doesn't want to be here. So what he's going to...
let's take it a little further.
He's had a horrible season.
He's had a horrible season.
So let me kick it up a notch so I can get traded this offseason. Because if I keep on playing this way, nobody's going to want me. I'm stuck here in Philadelphia.
So now I'm going to focus on playing better.
And look, he had a nice night last night.
No, he did.
Paul George in the post podcast P era is averaging 25, 8, and 7.
Okay.
And 4 steals.
Okay. I might like your theory better.
I think he's going to up his game. It's not going to really do anything long-term for the team. And then there's going to be a team that's probably more interested in trying to trade for a guy who is on a max contract that's going to take him till he's 39 years old. That's my theory.
Okay, that's
Theory.
not bad.
This is tinfoil cap stuff.
No, it is. That's a good theory, though.
Thank you.
I like your. I think I might like your theory better, but I do believe that there's a really good chance that it was a call out.
Could be. And
that when
deservedly so. And again, I don't
start airing dirty laundry. They're like guys, look, if we're going to talk about focus, why don't you stop doing your podcast?
Right.
Which needs a lot of work.
And so obviously there was a lot
and do that.
There was a lot of reaction to this yesterday. Kendrick Perkins straight up said, not only Paul George, but he thinks Jalen Brunson and Josh Hart, of course, they are on a podcast together.
By the way, it's not good either.
That they need to stop doing it. He said, I couldn't even imagine if I walked into the 2008 Celtics locker room, which had some dogs in that locker room. Like Kevin Garnett was a dog. He said, I couldn't even imagine if I walked into that locker room and said, hey, guys, I have a podcast. He said, I would have gotten, their hands would have been thrown in that locker room. Now, again, today's world's a lot different than what it was back in 2008. Now,
players, again, to use the Jalen Hurts, players back then kept the main thing the main thing.
Yeah, they don't do that anymore. A lot of players don't.
Side hustles were not the number one agenda.
Well, Frank Isola had a great response on Twitter.
He can be real salty, by the way.
Very big of him to take a break from his side gig to focus on his full-time job. The one paying him $212 million over 4 years. Extra credit, however, for delivering the lines with a straight face. Bravo.
Wow.
Great. It was a great tweet from Frank.
Okay, wow. I'm shocked. That is bold.
Yeah. I mean, this is objectively hilarious.
I know.
From
You're
the timing
spot
to the
on,
commentary,
dude.
like this is just peak comedy. This is not rearranging deck chairs on the Titanic. This is a single passenger on the Titanic clipping their fingernails because the ship is going down.
And he thought he did something. Like he thinks
anything.
He thinks in that clip, and we'll play it for you guys again if you missed it. In that clip, he's 100% acting like I'm doing something with this. All right, I'm doing something.
And I had to listen to it because I honestly wrote the podcast off a couple weeks ago.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped checking in on it. His whole tone sounds honestly like very contrived. A very contrived tone. Like I want to be real serious here. I got to focus. I'm going to do better. I'm gonna put make the main thing, whatever he wants to say. It's totally different.
I don't think it's not genuine. Like, to me,
I do.
He sounded genuine in the statement, which makes it almost crazier that at this point in the season.
I think he thought he did something.
Yeah,
I think he thought this is going to be the moment. I'm here to help the team, and the city of Philadelphia will support me for this. And instead, he just got crapped on everywhere, locally.
By the way, he deserves it.
nationally. Absolutely, he deserves it.
20 and 37,
this
no further.
season is a freaking mess, and you're telling me that you're going to put the podcast down now after your team is 17 games under 500?
Dude, the season's out. You already crapped the bed. You already destroyed any chances here, and you were a major reason why we had optimism, why things could potentially be better.
And he's a major reason why the team is 20 and 37, because in the games when Embiid's been out, and I get it, it is hard to overcome that.
It is.
Paul George has not been good.
Now, Andrew and I both didn't want you.
Correct.
But don't hold that against us.
Wait, you know how I know this is genuine? I'm putting together the pieces now. The guy just doesn't know where he is. You remember he got caught in the NFC Championship celebration,
dude, that was insane.
trying to drive in Center City? Like, he doesn't have a feel for what's being said outside the building.
So Amy was with us on Tuesday, and Amy straight up said, look, he's a California guy. And I think that's why one of my theories is that he's going to try to uplift his play and get his ass
out of
here.
town.
And look, there's already, we'll get into it later. We're not going to get into it now. There's already Kevin Durant stuff. That's Phoenix.
What?
That's West Coast, right?
What, he wants to play with Durant?
No, Durant wants to get out of Phoenix. And so that's max contracts that you can match.
Durant.
It's more older players, even though Durant still is balling. But, I mean, I think that's what my theory is.
Could I drive to Phoenix to pick up Kevin Durant?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because one thing I know is Kevin Durant is going to be a hell of a lot more focused than Paul
and he's
George.
going to try to win. All right.
Gosh, an opportunity awaits, but I don't know that works.
Yeah, well, we'll see how all that, the money and all that kind of stuff. But look, it's just sad. And so if you want to vent your frustration when it comes to the Sixers and react to Paul George making this major sacrifice to put away the podcast to focus on the team who lost yet again last night, feel free to chime in at 610-632-0975. Coming up next, we reset the show. It's a day where we celebrate the Eagles, I should say, and the day where we react to the big news from Paul George. But coming up next, we had Adam Schefter on yesterday, and I thought his snarky comment to the people who want to ban the tush push was amazing, and I want to highlight it next because we got some updates regarding the tush push from the NFL committee yesterday. It is Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The Sixers slide continues. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Sixers dropped another one last night, falling to the New York Knicks, 110-105 up at the Garden. The conversation continues to grow about the Sixers trying to improve their draft pick in the final stretch of the season. Paul Hudrick joined the best show ever yesterday and said that tanking seems to be the better option right now for the team.
Till I see a game where Tyrese Maxey just goes nuts and scores 40 and they rally behind him and they win, I think this team is better off trying to accumulate losses
Now, it seems the team isn't quite there themselves yet, but they got to be getting closer with every passing loss. They're off till Saturday when they'll host the Red Hot Warriors. Flyers take on the Penguins tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And the NFL Combine begins today. The top college prospects take the field in Indianapolis. We'll keep you updated on all the news out of the Combine right here on 97.5 The Fanatic. This update is brought to you by Natural Lawn of America. Get free seeding every year. Call 800-FREE-SEED now. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Ricky Batalico.
Why I put him in number 5? Well, that way you could skip him.
Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. Now, no comments today.
We've done 240 some of these shows, and now all of a sudden it's 5 of 7.
Happy 247th show, by the way, today. We still.
There we go.
John and I are. Do we remember the first day of the show? Because the anniversary is coming up.
I'm going to come back. I can look at it right
I know,
now.
but
I meant to look at it
But
yesterday.
I feel like that's something I should just know.
March something.
I know it's March something. Thanks a lot.
You're
I
welcome.
should just know the date off the top of my
God,
head.
Wait a minute. Wait.
I hope
let me
we're all
see.
on vacation.
I remember
I was
my first.
away
I remember my
then.
first
Wait a minute.
day as an
Came back.
employee, December 14th.
I think it was March 18th.
Okay.
I think it was March
The
18th.
day before my mom's birthday, 3 days before Coop's birthday.
I think of March 18th was the day.
All right. I will be on vacation.
And you, well,
I'll
yeah,
be in
well,
Clearwater.
We're still going to check in with you, right?
Yes. Yeah, I'll
We're
be
gonna
checking in
bother
every
you?
single day. I'm looking.
Do me a favor,
I'll be
just so you
bothered.
know, do not check in with me on vacation.
Oh no. We're
Thank you.
We're calling you every day.
I love you, but
Connor's going with you. Remember?
Yeah, guess what? I brought that up yesterday. Christina declined. She says she
said
thinks
no?
think Connor's a very charming guy.
Unbelievable.
She said, but this is a adults only, couples type of situation.
I got my Speedo ready and everything. Come
Believe me.
on, Johnny.
Believe me.
All right, so we are talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. Here's a quick reset of the show before we play the Schefter clip, which I want to celebrate because we had a major update. So we had a major sacrifice from Paul George yesterday, and now we have a major update in the NFL. And it's very funny how it's very similar because Paul George thinks he did something, and a lot of the head coaches in the NFL thought they had data which didn't exist. We'll get to that coming up in a little bit.
Isn't that great?
But the NFL Players Association, the anonymous poll came out yesterday, which is voted upon during training camp. I actually have a full deep dive article from Jeff McClain that I'll go through at points throughout the show because
I'm not shocked that Jeff would have like the deep dive.
dude, it is a deep dive.
Not shocked.
So I'll get into this coming up later on the show for you guys. But the Eagles graded out 22nd overall out of the 32 teams. Obviously, they had some very good grades, some very high grades. Like their food was an A-. Their dining area was an A-, which is 7th in the NFL. Which is funny, right? They're 7th with an A-. Nick Sirianni got an A-, and he was 18th.
But people got A pluses.
Correct.
And
Yeah.
everything. So, again, what matters is the number, not the grade.
I don't think
matters is
that's not fair.
I would rather go grade than number, dude.
Of course it would. I mean, it's not, look, the better, you're being ranked against your peers.
Yeah, but if everybody gets an A plus and they do alphabetical order and the Eagles are 16th,
That's not how it works. Everybody who gets an A plus is one, and then the first person to get an A might be the 14th team. They're 14th.
is that how they rank it?
Yes. Everybody who got an A plus, when you get the A plus, they don't rank people alphabetically and say you're first, you're second, you're third. Those people are first, and then let's say 12 teams got an A plus. Then the first team to get an A is 13th.
Okay.
Come on, Connor. They didn't teach you that overseas?
By the way, in case you guys were wondering, for context purposes, the coaches that got an A plus. Now, again, this is why I can't totally buy into this.
Raheem Morris.
Dan Quinn, which okay,
No, he did. No,
the way
Dan,
you talk about him.
Dan Quinn would get an A plus from a lot of his players.
Raheem Morris, as you mentioned, Kevin O'Connell, Andy Reid, Dan Campbell. The other A
So
plus.
Andy Reid got one.
The other A plus was freaking Mike McDaniel. Like, okay, so he's hey man, you want to come play football with me today,
you
pal?
just hate Mike McDaniel.
No, because he
Dude,
stinks.
I think his players really enjoy
no,
it.
but he stinks as a
Yeah,
head
but
coach.
the thing is, though, Connor, he's got to be looking at things. When he passes by, think of Mike McDaniel. When he passes by Vic Fangio at the scouting combine, I wish Vic Fangio would just go over to him and literally give him a swirly. Yeah,
He probably could.
In the toilet, put a swirly. Because it's like, yeah, not really a connection with our players.
yeah, they
And I
run
think-
a
because he
different type of organization
no,
now.
Yeah,
he's
that's
a
why they lose.
substitute
Exactly.
teacher. He's the substitute teacher who has no control over anything, who lets his players dictate everything. Wait a minute, we may have one of them in this town. But it's like that lets let the players call the shots.
Yeah, that's why I don't care that like Nick Sirianni's an A-. It's not like he got an F. Like, so the players like Mike McDaniel's better. It doesn't mean he wins.
And I
That is correct.
I agree. It's probably also a popularity thing, as you said. The A's were Mike Tomlin, Jonathan Gannon, your boy Shanahan, who's the Bengals head coach, Taylor,
Zach
Taylor. Thank you.
Like, Jonathan Gannon doesn't have an ounce of personality, and he doesn't win.
By the
He
way,
does have personality with his players.
Oh, okay.
Ask
Well,
DeCecco. He has, believe
right.
me, he has personality with
now again, this is all. Again, to make it clear, this is training camp because Shane Steichen got an A, and I know people are losing interest in Shane Steichen in Indianapolis, not just fans. You know, there's been reports that Steichen's not really everybody's favorite anymore. McVay got an A. The Seahawks coach got an A. Mike McCarthy got an A. And then lastly, the Texans.
Okay, does it matter?
D'Amico Ryans got an A.
To me, that matters. Like, it matters. It's where you are on the list. Like, all these guys got ranked ahead of you. Whether you like it or not, they're ranked ahead of you.
By a half-letter grade that really
Right. I mean, that's how I look at it.
This
like,
makes no
A-
difference to
is
me.
an A- to me, man.
Okay. That's fine. It's great.
See, it's because you're
You're the 18th best husband in your neighborhood.
I got an A- though?
No, you're the 18th.
Sign me up,
You're
baby.
the 18th best.
That's how you look at it.
Yeah,
I look at it as
he's not
A-.
married to the 17 other guys. None of these other players on the Eagles are playing for the other guys. They're winning
I got
championships.
an
in Philly.
A-, and I'm happy about that. So what we're basically trying to say out of all of this, because this happened during training camp, right? Before the Eagles went on their Super Bowl season, when things came off of a collapse, where training camp had drama, the first 6 weeks of the season had drama, the Eagles overcame all of that and won a Super Bowl. So we should celebrate all of this, even though I know there were a lot of people that were shocked when the grades came out yesterday. Again, this happened during training camp. What are the people saying on the text line so far this morning, Connor? It's 610-632-0975, reacting to the NFL Players Association grade, but turning this into a positive discussion. And then also Paul George and his major sacrifice, because Paul George is no longer doing the podcast, John.
Oh, it's amazing.
For the betterment of the team so that they can focus.
And a betterment to the podcast community. I'm just being honest.
There's too many podcasts
My
out there.
kids, if I turned it over to my kids in class, they would tear that show apart. They would just tear it apart.
Oh, I mean, people watch it so that they can think they can get some insight on the and that's what people are watching it
Stop.
for. Connor, he's on the phone over there.
Okay.
What I do want to play, Connor, if you can hear me back there, I do want to play this from yesterday's conversation. We had Shefty on yesterday. And to give you an update on what's going on in the tush push world, we'll give you that in a second. But here was Shefty yesterday when we brought up the push to ban the tush push from certain teams in the NFL. Shefty gave a nice snarky comment in response.
And my stance on this is it's football. It's football. So if Tyreek Hill is so much faster than everybody else and Patrick Mahomes is throwing the long ball, is it, are we risking the health of DB's hamstrings by having to chase Tyreek Hill down? Like, is that a health and safety risk?
I love that snarky response. And oh, by the way, there was an update on the tush push. The NFL did a deep dive on all the tush pushes run. Eagles, Bills, Bears.
A lot of problems. They must have had a lot of problems with all those tush pushes.
Actually, John, how about zero problems?
Well, I mean, people they've learned to just deal with all the little minor injuries.
No.
and everything.
The NFL announced that its internal data showed that the tush push in 2024 resulted in 0 injuries.
What?
0. Which
No.
included
This is a problem. That's why they had to talk about it.
No. It's a problem because teams can't stop it. And so they have to find some sort of reason to say this needs to be banned instead of just saying the cowardly response of, we can't find a way to stop it. So it's an injury risk, which I still find so funny today, 3 days after he said it, that Sean McDermott went on a podium at the Combine behind a microphone complaining that the tush push is an injury risk, and yet his team ran it the second most among any team in the NFL. So if you believe it is such an injury risk to the point where you're putting your neck out on the line saying it should be banned, why are you having your team run it?
Okay, that's really is sort of even more wild.
0 injuries.
I thought that they would find something. Like that there was some issue.
Nope, 0.
Nothing. Got to. That's it. That puts the end of the argument, right?
I would
Because
think
there
so.
should never be a rule change due to somebody just not liking something.
And that's why what Shefty said I thought was a beautiful, snarky comment. What, so Tyreek Hill's faster than everybody else? Should he slow down or not play?
Yeah, I don't know what.
Like, that's the beauty of sports. All right? Like, what? Since when did we go away from the beauty? I understand. Everybody's analytics. Players are better than other players. There's a reason why I peaked in high school. There's a reason why Connor peaked in D3 college baseball, right? There's a reason. Because there's better athletes. There's better players. There's a reason why they're in the NFL. But shocking there are some players in the NFL better than others. There's reasons why there's guys on practice squads. There's reasons why there's guys that are undrafted. There's reasons why there's guys drafted number 1 overall and sometimes flame out because there are better players. And so the Eagles found a distinct advantage based off of the team that they built.
How could it be that there would be any further discussion on this?
I don't know. Well, I'll tell you exactly how. First of all, I'm still peaking, by the way. I take offense to that. But it's not analytics. Like, these coaches aren't saying it because we believe the analytics of the play show that injuries or whatever. They're using analytics as a front to try and ban a play they can't stop. All this is at the base level is coaches are trying to gain a competitive advantage by banning a play that they cannot stop. And
so they're
excuse.
being whiny cowards to try to ban a play because they can't stop.
But they
don't
can't.
think they believe it.
Well, they can't use it anymore because the example that they were using.
They're going to continue to.
But there's no, if it's not injury, there's no other grounds to change the rule.
John, there was no grounds to begin with. They don't have grounds.
I'm just.
They're
What we're trying to figure out is what is their next.
If they had injury,
what is their
Connor,
next tack?
If they had an injury, they could point to some data.
Right, but
they
they
could
don't.
say, and they don't. So now there's no excuse. There's nothing else for this to stand on.
There was never an excuse. There were never injury issues. There was never a problem with the play besides the Eagles are really good at it and everyone else is being salty.
So conversation should be over unless they find another.
It's got to be over. Right?
Reason, like they're gonna try to find a reason.
It should have never started. So
it shouldn't have.
Everything we've already had is existing past the point you guys are arguing. They're creating this narrative simply because they don't want to see the play exist, and they're going to continue to do it against all odds, against all data, against all arguments. They're going to continue to try and have this play banned because they can't stop it, and we're just going to have to live with the discourse.
I think the funniest things. Number one, the funniest thing is Sean McDermott saying it's an injury risk and yet running it the second most. I think the other funny thing is this is over a play for 1 yard.
That is pretty incredible.
Right? This is a 1 yard play. Like, I get it. It leads to touchdowns a lot of the times.
It does, yes.
Because for some reason, Saquon Barkley falls
eight times on the 1 yard line.
Which is amazing.
8 times.
Considering the season he had this year.
He would have been runaway. If he scores 5 of those, he's runaway MVP.
I think I agree with you there.
Runaway MVP.
All right, coming up next.
Bigfoot wouldn't get it.
We'll check our text line for the first time this morning. Also, one team in the NFL that was considered a threat last year obviously dealt with a lot of injuries. And I think they're about to make a mistake.
Uh-oh.
It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
come up in a little bit. I'm like this hour, this week has flown by.
It's been a fast week.
Which is great for you because you're going on vacation, so that's amazing. Like I love when a week goes fast when you have something to look forward to.
Correct.
This hour is going to be a lot of fun. I'm just telling you right now because we're going to get into a conversation about another NFL team within the NFC. We're going to get into the world of AI coming up later
Allen
on.
Iverson?
No. Artificial intelligence.
I know nothing about it.
We're going to get into that world coming up at the bottom of the hour. We're going to talk about Tom Brady in a wild story, and then an even wilder story that almost led to fists.
If Tom Brady has any more surgery, he's going to look like AI.
I think he already does.
Seriously.
Dude. We'll check our text
It's like
line
Max
momentarily. But let's start off with the San Francisco 49ers.
Okay.
A team that obviously we always kind of kept an eye on last year. Despite them losing a lot of games, they were dealing with injuries all season long, and we're wondering, all right.
They were terrorized by injury.
At what point are they going to get healthy and snap into it? And McCaffrey comes back and has like 3 good runs, and then he's done again.
He's done again.
And that's when their season was officially cooked. So they now have a decision to make.
Mike Trout says McCaffrey needs to really get a little tougher.
They have a decision to make on their quarterback, Brock Purdy, because he's up for a contract. I think next year is his final year of his deal, right?
Next year, yeah.
But obviously in the NFL, the last year, you try to want to avoid the last year, the final year.
Yeah.
So there's already been a lot of talk about whether or not the San Francisco 49ers should pay Brock Purdy now. I think that he is an NFL quarterback. I think they will make a mistake if they pay him like the 250 plus that a lot of other quarterbacks are getting paid right now.
Do you think anyone's lining up to pay him that?
I don't.
If he was on the open market,
I don't think so.
I don't either. I think he's a Jimmy G type of quarterback.
I agree with you. And look,
Jimmy G.
That's what. Look, I know you have your personal feelings toward Kyle Shanahan, and I hate the boy genius stuff, but he's a very successful offensive mind, and that's why they draft Trey Lance and go, "Hey, see you, Jimmy G." And that's why when Brock Purdy shows they can play, he go, "All right, see you later, everybody. I can make it work." That's who Shanahan seems to be, the kind of guy that goes, "Give me the next guy."
But he never made Trey Lance work.
Right. Well, they moved on very quickly from Trey.
Traded up to get Trey Lance.
I know, it was amazing. I don't think Brock Purdy is a top 10 paid deserving quarterback in the NFL.
What about like 10 to 15?
Sure.
Like
But
11 to 15.
But if I'm Brock Purdy and I'm Brock Purdy's agent, you're going for that top money because you're going to point to the success that he has had as the underdog story and point to the success that the team has had around him. Now, here's the deal. The 49ers are going to be in cap trouble very soon.
They're already in a little bit of it.
And so, are you going to pay Brock Purdy $250 million?
You have to.
No.
You don't have
Because what you could do is you could sign Sam Darnold. And you could sign Sam Darnold to a 3-year deal.
For much less.
And feel like they might think that they got a better quarterback there.
And Shanahan's a guy that I could see that totally doing that with.
I got a feeling that there may be the whole Matthew Stafford leaving the Rams may be about Sean McVay wanting to get a hold of Sam Darnold. Letting Matt Stafford leave.
Possible.
Because he's also I can probably make it work with anybody.
Now, Matt Stafford's an aging quarterback who has a couple of years left, a handful at most.
But right now, they're saying this morning they think there's a good chance he's going to the Giants.
Right. No,
I can't believe it.
Yeah. I'm just saying.
I can't believe it.
Matt Stafford, age-wise, is so far away from where Brock Purdy is. It'd be significantly harder to move on from a guy in Brock Purdy.
Okay.
Who's won pretty consistently with that team when they're healthy and not collapsing. Like, let's not forget where Brock Purdy is.
But that's the thing. Have they won because of him, or have they won because of Shanahan and Ayuk and Samuel and Kittle and McCaffrey? The same argument, by the way, that people make about Jalen Hurts.
I totally get you.
I think it's Jimmy G. He's Jimmy G, and he's a product of getting to work with one of the brightest offensive minds.
And so
that's me complimenting Kyle Shanahan.
Do you make Brock Purdy one of the highest paid quarterbacks because he is a product of something?
If you don't, someone will.
Never. I don't think somebody's going to.
The New York Jets would murder their firstborn son for Brock Purdy.
Well, no,
the Tennessee Titans,
the firstborn son makes their calls their shots.
That's true. He
From,
plays
from Madden.
Like, the Tennessee Titans would die for Brock Purdy. Like, there are organizations in the NFL that dream of a Brock Purdy that would pay any money in the world to find.
I don't believe that we're contrary on this one.
Let's say Brock Purdy
have that kind of
let's say
market
Brock
value.
Purdy gets traded to the Titans, right? Like, because the Titans go, we want him, and we're gonna trade for him, and then we're gonna rework the contract. He's gonna stink if he's with the Titans.
Probably.
A lot of quarterbacks would stink with the Titans.
But guess what? Dumb organizations. They see the quarterback. They see the Holy Grail. They don't care. They want to go get it.
But my point is, I think it would be a dumb move for the Niners to pay Brock Purdy. I really do.
I think it'd be a really dumb move, and I don't believe he's going to get. Like, I don't think he's going to have this. Oh my gosh, 5 franchises dying to sign Brock Purdy.
It doesn't have to be 5. Just has to be 1.
He'll get some job. I just don't think it's going to be a market that is really robust.
You're handcuffed, though. Like, the 49ers can't not pay him because he's going to find that money from a bad organization somewhere that hasn't had a quarterback in 20 years. And the 49ers have seen that they can win with him. You're damned if you do, damned if you don't.
Would you
They're in a
rather have
bad
Sam
spot.
Darnold?
I can't say that I would. I'd say those guys are pretty close.
I'd
right
rather
now.
have Sam Darnold. Absolutely.
Now, there is a report from Dan Graziano of what could be the deal for Brock Purdy.
Okay.
So it wouldn't be the 250. 4 years, 196, 112 of which would be guaranteed. That's still a lot of money
That's a ton of money.
for a guy that I can't say hasn't proved anything because he's proved that he can play quarterback in the NFL.
Anybody, let's put it this way, can sort of play Shanahan's system.
Well, and what
appears.
What happened last year when he lost his weapons?
Yep. He was nobody.
He sucked.
He was a nobody. I wouldn't pay him. There's
So
no way.
That's a storyline that I'm going to keep a close
and you
eye
know what?
on.
Because they still are a danger to the Eagles.
And that's why I keep a close eye on it. Like, look, they got hurt last year. They were riddled with injuries, which is why they became a non-factor. And I was very thankful of it because that's a team that I'm always going to keep an eye on. But this could be the beginning of the end of the San Francisco 49ers, a team that were rivals with the Eagles over the last couple of seasons.
And we thought they were going to have a window.
And the window might be shutting. Trent Williams getting older. Deebo Samuel's already on his way out. They might have to pay Brock Purdy, who I don't think has proved enough to make $200-some million. This could be the end of the 49ers, which is big for the window for the Eagles.
But if they get Sam Darnold?
I think clock struck midnight.
Oh, okay. I do not.
He does not scare me remotely.
I know with Kyle Shanahan. No, absolutely.
Oh, Connell's pretty good, too.
Yep.
I think clock struck midnight. All right, coming up next, I told you we're going to go into the world of AI because the Eagles could be winning the Super Bowl again, Johnny.
What?
Also,
they could be. Yeah, they could.
Also, Tom Brady can't be in the booth next season.
But 80.
It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5, The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Another loss for the Sixers. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Sixers dropped another one last night. They fell to the Knicks 110-105. The conversation continues to grow about the Sixers trying to improve their draft pick in the final stretch of the season. Paul Hudrick joined the best show ever yesterday and talked about the idea of tanking, and that seems to be the better option for the Sixers right now.
Until I see a game where Tyrese Maxey just goes nuts and scores 40 and they rally behind him and they win, I think this team is better off trying to accumulate losses.
Now, it's much easier to say from outside the organization, but we'll see if the Sixers get to that point. They're off till Saturday when they'll host the Warriors. Flyers take on the Penguins tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The NFL Combine begins today. Top college prospects take the field in Indy. The Eagles, of course, have the 32nd overall pick in the upcoming draft. We'll keep you updated on all the news out of the Combine. Kevin Nagandi will join us coming up at 8:55. This update is brought to you by Jackson Hewitt. It matters who does your taxes. Want expert tax prep? Jackson Hewitt will give you $100 to switch. Limited time offer for new clients. Participating locations only. Terms at jacksonhewitt.com. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Bill Colarulo.
My frustration's at the Sixers. I get it. There's a frustration level with
lot for the Sixers.
Your first short sleeve day of the year, too?
Yes, very comfortable.
With no
today.
jacket?
Nope, no jacket. Just straight up short sleeves walking out of the house this morning. It was beautiful, man. So obviously we're also talking about the Sixers as Paul George made the major sacrifice yesterday.
Isn't that nice?
Of announcing that he will be putting the podcast to the side until the season's over to focus on the playoff push for the Sixers.
Going to work on his offensive game?
Which resulted, well, his offensive game actually looked good yesterday.
Okay, yeah, looked good yesterday.
En route to a Sixers loss.
I never
to the
questioned the
Knicks.
defensive effort.
Yeah,
because I think the defensive
great.
effort.
Look, he is still.
He's what?
I'm going to tell you right now.
He's what?
He's still a good ball player. He's just been a mess here.
Wait a minute.
Yeah.
Okay, when you say on levels, what are the levels you evaluate players on? You like excellent,
No, I
very
think-
good, good?
I thought he was going to be the third piece to this basketball team. And a night like last night where he goes 25 points, 4 of 9 from 3, 8 rebounds, 7 assists, that's better than what Tobias Harris would do for you, right?
Yeah,
the only
well,
problem is
we've seen like one night of 2 nights of this.
Exactly, because it's been a disaster. It's been a disaster with Embiid. It's been a disaster with Paul George, which is why I do believe he's going to try to uplift his game to get himself out of here.
I like your theory. My theory is that during this discourse there has been some behind the scenes team meeting type stuff.
I'm sure both are true.
And I believe that if Tyrese Maxey was willing to call out the big man earlier this year and call him out in front of his teammates, I don't think he'd have any problem calling out Paul George going, hey, that's just a theory. I like your theory a lot, though.
I lean much more towards John. Like I don't know.
Internally, like, come on, guys, let's all focus on.
I don't think 20 games of Paul George is going to change the ability of him to get traded with that contract at this age. Still with the finger issue being a thing that's going on. They're going to shut him down at
unless you
some
have another
point.
veteran that's upset in the league, and that's Kevin Durant.
But
so that's a possibility.
That would happen just because of the money, not because Paul George all of a sudden quits the podcast. I think this is when you see like a tragedy in the world happen, and some dude halfway around the world tweets thoughts and prayers. Like, that is what this is from Paul George. It is total eyewash, face value. I'm going to do this to try and, I don't know,
and
make it seem like I'm
he
doing
thought
something.
he did something, and then he got backlash.
He did, though.
That tweet from Isola was great.
He improved the podcast space because it's a little lacking. They could use a little podcast coaching.
Frank Isola, a longtime NBA reporter, covers the league.
I can't believe that he came out with that.
Very big of him to take a break from his side gig to focus on his full-time job.
You said-
know, the one paying him $212 million over 4 years. Extra credit, however, for delivering the lines with a straight face. Bravo.
You said Kendrick Perkins, though.
Kendrick Perkins straight up said, he and also Josh Hart and Jalen Brunson should put down their podcast to focus on the New York Knicks, who had also had high expectations. Now they're 38-20. The Sixers are 20-38.
They're the great fans of Philly too. I did have to. I thought they should have inserted one of those TGIF laugh tracks under that one.
Yes.
Like he's reading that. The great fans of Philly.
Great fans of Philly.
That's what I'm doing this for. You didn't even know what the great fans of Philly were doing on NFC Championship game night because you weren't even watching.
Well, maybe that's when he noticed that they were great fans.
Out in the streets.
Oh my God, they're out here for this. Do we have any text messages on the Paul George sacrifice? I'm curious about that because I wonder, are people here supporting Paul George today saying, thank you, Paul, thank you. Are you going to be playoff P for the Sixers this year?
Please.
Yeah, we have a text here from Eddie in Camden who says, I do think that Paul George stopping his podcast will turn... No, I'm kidding. He says, PG saying that is like changing a flat tire after all 4 tires on your car have gone flat.
Yeah.
Seriously. Now I think he should change his name to Play In Paul until they get actually into the play-in.
They're not in the play-in.
Dude, it should be...
No, he should change it. That should be
Dude,
Play In Paul.
Playing Paul.
The play-in.
Because he's actually he's finally playing.
That's nice.
I mean, it's hard. And this is the thing. Like, we have to make jokes so we don't cry.
And this gives him a chance to rework the podcast. I'm willing to let my students work with them to make a better podcast because it's terrible.
Yeah.
In the podcast space, it's Family Matters. I mean, it is. It's like it's Family Matters.
No, I liked Family Matters.
Step by step.
He's putting it to the
step by
side
step.
for the benefit of the team. All right, you guys like artificial intelligence?
I do.
Sometimes.
I do.
don't, but that's okay.
Why don't you like it? Are you scared? I'm not scared of it, but are you just don't like it? Creeps you
It
out?
freaks me out a little
He's
bit.
not a technology guy, Johnny.
No, I understand.
Well, yeah, seriously, we had beef about it this morning, which we'll get into later
Yeah,
on
we
in the
did.
show.
Listen to today's headlines.
So yesterday, my friends at FanDuel Sportsbook,
They're great folks. They love technology.
they do. They asked Grok or Grok.
Grok, right?
That's Elon's.
Yeah, it's the XAI. It's like
Yeah.
ChatGPT for
Okay,
X.
what did they ask Grok?
They asked Grok to predict the 2025 NFL award winners.
Okay.
So, their prediction for MVP, quarterback Joe Burrow.
All right.
Offensive player of the year for the second straight season,
Saquon Barkley.
Barkley.
Oh, my gosh.
Defensive player of the year. Now, this scares me.
Defensive player of the year. Let me think. It's got to be a rival to the Eagles.
I bet it's Micah Parsons.
Okay.
Right position group. How about Myles Garrett?
Oh, okay.
Now, here's why it scares me.
With Washington?
They predicted with the Lions.
Oh, that would scare me.
And oh, by the way, their comeback player of the year, Aiden Hutchinson.
Garrett goes to the Lions. Yeah, that's a problem.
Yeah, so you should trade for Myles Garrett just so
you
the
should-
Lions don't get him.
You don't do things for your team. You don't do things for your team just because you're worried about another.
What do you mean? That's exactly what you do.
Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson are on both sides of the defensive
you're
line
telling
for the
me-
Lions.
I thought the stupidest part of the whole discussion when listening to people about Myles Garrett, you can't let him go to Washington.
Well, I don't want him going
Washington
to Detroit.
has like 25 guys under contract on their roster. You have no idea what they're going to be. And more importantly, if the Eagles are truly concerned about the Commanders getting one player, please give me a freaking break. Howie Roseman is not in his office going, oh my gosh, if the Commanders get Myles Garrett, this division's in danger.
You might say that about Detroit, though.
No. Detroit, absolutely there's a danger. But they have more to offer, too, by the way.
Yes, they do. Offensive Rookie of the Year, Ashton Genty with the Cowboys. Defensive Rookie of the Year, Abdul Carter with the Titans. Now, there's an update on Abdul Carter that we'll give you in the 8 o'clock hour.
Yeah, that bum.
That might change that.
Big bum.
Coach of the Year, they have Ben Johnson with the Chicago Bears.
Because I do think they're going to be a problem down the line.
However, like Saquon Barkley, back-to-back Offensive Player of the Year, they have the Philadelphia Eagles.
NFC champs?
Back-to-back Super Bowl champs, Johnny. You know what? Today I am pro AI. Today I'm pro Grok.
Wow.
The Eagles winning the Super Bowl back-to-back years.
Okay. The Detroit thing's going to be the Detroit thing could potentially be a problem.
If Myles Garrett goes there, I'm terrified.
It's a
I'm
potential.
sorry.
That's a potential problem. Yeah, absolutely.
That would be
but
Yeah, they just don't have the need.
That'd be a fun week one. Myles Garrett and Aiden Hutchinson.
But remember, that's going to be that is going to be our week one.
I think so.
That's
too, yeah.
September 4th. So that is probably going to be it, which is going to make it more of monumental importance that they win that game. I understand Jeffrey Lurie, though, is considering moving it to the Clementon Park, because if they can do a game somewhere, they can sell it off to.
Hey, you told me he shut down Australia, so that's good. He's learned.
Hopefully. Or it was a fake story. They haven't really said
altogether,
They haven't really said what it was.
By the way, also, I don't know how Tom Brady can still be in the booth with the story that came out yesterday. And I understand that there could have just been a coincidence that they were in the same resort at the same time.
Okay.
If there wasn't that coincidence and he's meeting with people because he is a part owner of the Raiders,
sure.
How can he be unbiased? I thought it was fishy from the very beginning. Now that he's meeting with players, because this is now his first off season as a partial owner of the Raiders.
Sure.
How can he still be in the booth?
I thought he did a pretty good job, I got to tell you.
No, I'm not saying that he was bad or good.
No, I got you. No, but I understand your point of view here. We're going to get into this.
Well, not only are we going to get into this, there were two media members that got into it over this. Fists were almost thrown at the NFL Combine between two known media members who I believe you have had on your shows.
I have. I know.
And I have had on my shows. Hear a wild story from Indianapolis that almost led to a fight between two national media members. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli.
The Sixers' decision to extend with all this uncertainty by telling you.
segment, I brought up the Tom Brady thing.
But
Tom Brady is at a resort in Montana.
It's a ski resort.
Now, one report said his home in Montana. You say it's a ski resort.
It's a resort. It's a resort is where the Staffords were at a resort. They were at a resort. They're on vacation. They weren't. If it was in Tom Brady's.
They own homes in the
They
same.
do.
It's in the ski community.
That is correct. And by the way, it is one of the most elite of the elite places to
So they don't
have a
allow
place.
people like you and me there.
We would not be able to afford it. If you wanted to stay at the place where people stay for the night, minimum charges would probably be around. It would probably cost you around for a 3-night stay. Probably cost you around $19,000-$20,000.
Oh, that's it.
That's doable.
Company credit cards
For
got
3
that
nights,
one, right?
Really? I'm having trouble getting my expenses approved from New Orleans, and we've been home for 3 weeks. What are you talking about? You think that's getting covered? You think that's getting covered?
It's called Boston.
Oh my gosh!
So yesterday, here's where it led to this
Can't get my lunch money back.
wild beef between two reporters. So
You can get wild beef out there too.
this story starts. Jordan Schultz,
Yes,
who I've had on before, you've had on before.
great dude.
Yeah, good guy.
He is the heir, one of the heirs to the Starbucks fortune.
Which is good
His
for you.
father created Starbucks. Yes, but Jordan literally rejected
he
going
works,
to work
he
for
works his
dad
ass off.
and wanted to make his own way and do something different for a living.
Yeah.
And instead of just being daddy's, I'm going to just work where my dad
he worked
created.
he worked his butt off. Also, good to know in the back of your mind if this doesn't work out, I have billions coming my way. But
Well, that's sort of like the Salciunas fortune that you're sitting on.
man,
Makes you feel good.
no. No. So the Jordan Schultz put out this tweet yesterday around 2:30. Sources: Raiders minority owner Tom Brady recently hosted Rams quarterback Matthew Stafford at his home in Montana, where they spent time together and went skiing. Brady has been actively trying to convince Stafford to join the Raiders, and discussions are ongoing. Several teams are interested in Stafford if the Rams decide to move him, with Las Vegas believed to be the most aggressive suitor. Now, I fell victim to this as well, wondering if this is tampering or not. The Rams, a couple days ago, I missed this, gave Stafford permission to seek a trade.
Now, and also to just getting a note here that I hadn't when you don't check your texts, I should have. Stafford, they do timeshare type situation in a home in that community. So they have been doing this previous years, which doesn't play to the tampering thing. So the people who are, like, as far as people saying, oh, this was arranged.
He flew him out
This
there.
is not the first time that the Staffords have been at this place.
Is it the first time that Brady's been there with Stafford is a question that I have.
The guys went skiing together. What's the big whoop?
I think it's fantastic.
However, Tom Pelissero,
Okay, good
who
writer.
of the NFL Network,
Good writer.
then puts out a tweet, reached for comment about an internet rumor that Tom Brady hosted Matt Stafford on a recruiting visit in Montana. Brady's longtime agent Don Yee told me, I know that reporters sometimes make mistakes in their haste. This story is inaccurate. Ian Rappaport quote tweeted it and said Tom Brady and Matthew Stafford, like many other high-profile people, both own houses in the same ski community. And then obviously he went on to talk about it on the NFL Network. Now, I don't know what was said on the NFL Network because that tweet didn't seem like it was filled with hate.
It was inconspicuous.
No.
So I don't know what he said on the show, but it led to an interaction between both Jordan Schultz and Ian Rappaport.
Okay.
So Mike Florio, Pro Football Talk, got the scoop, as did the PFT commenter from
Sure.
Barstool. Apparently, Schultz went up to Rappaport and dropped the "we need to talk" line on him, while Rappaport was speaking with an agent. So Rappaport was actually talking to somebody at the time, and Schultz walks in, interrupts the conversation.
In a
and-
lobby area. I thought
Yeah,
it was.
and drops a "we need to talk" line. Not like, hey, man, can we talk when you have a minute? No, we need to talk.
Okay.
Which, when that's first dropped, you know that a discussion.
Is going down about somebody's activities.
Rappaport replies, we don't need to talk. Tries to
Okay.
shut it down right away. And so Schultz says, and now this is from the story. This is the quote that Florio put out there. Not sure if this...
Okay, you're attributing it to that they did the reporting. You did not do this reporting, but you're getting it.
And, who knows if these quotes are word for word accurate.
Correct. Or the tone used or whatever.
Well, the tone's clear.
The tone could be, okay, what is it?
If you have anything to say to me, say it to my effing face. And
Okay,
he didn't
that's
say effing. He said the full word. If this continues, we're going to have an effing problem. Schultz said this to Rappaport. And then he says, again, if this happens, we're going to have an effing problem.
Okay.
Now I'll step back. Rappaport apparently called NFL security.
Oh, no.
And security had to come to try to calm down the situation between these two reporters.
I would tell you, knowing both men, Jordan would take him apart.
Yeah, I can see it.
Jordan would take him apart. So if there was a physical confrontation, so maybe Ian felt a little intimidated.
Maybe.
Well, this is the perfect time and the perfect place. You call it the Underwear Olympics, Johnny, but the Combine, what you do is you stop it at high noon on Thursday, like the old Western showdowns. You give them helmets, you give them
50-yard
shoulder
line?
pads. Yeah, Oklahoma drill.
I like
Let's
it.
go. Blow the whistle. Get after it, boys.
Wait a minute, if Rich Eisen can run the 40,
Exactly.
why don't we have something where they're
Right,
squaring
right,
off?
And if it's
Exactly.
close, then put them on the bench press.
This
is
could very well
great.
work.
We have the ability to do this, boys.
Now-
I'm team Jordan, by the way.
Yeah,
and
I
I
agree.
don't. It's not that I'm not trying to diss Ian Rappaport, but I'm just saying I'm team Jordan as far as I like how he goes about his business a little more.
Well, we can get live
They
odds.
didn't
We have
Rappaport.
Salciunas Sportsbook from the parade. We can get plus minus on the Oklahoma drill.
Schultz minus 250.
Matt and his wife, they literally lived a mile and a half from us in Atlanta.
Yeah.
And in the offseason.
How often was Brady there?
We would see, never saw Brady once.
exactly.
We used to run into them at Goldberg's Deli at breakfast. And Olivia was so impressed that Matthew Stafford and his beautiful wife would literally, they'd get out. I guess the nanny would have the kids. They'd go to Goldberg's and have breakfast. And they never, no big timing, nothing. They sat at a booth just like everybody else and interacted with all the kids. If a kid came in, they were wonderful people.
That's nice.
So I'm rooting for this. Look, they're allowed. Matthew's allowed to do whatever he wants, but this is not his first time that he's been there. So I don't know if it is the first time Brady's been there.
That's where I
can ask Jay Feely that.
You could.
I'll ask Jay.
That's where I kind of look at this story like, interesting timing.
This is where the lifestyles, the rich and famous, the beautiful people go.
Well, the important part of this story is Tom Brady would never do anything fishy to gain a competitive advantage.
He would never throw his
I don't even
phones
know what we're
away.
talking
He would
about.
never destroy his phones.
Connor, you are taking the air out of this discussion right now.
He would
exactly.
never.
You're deflating this entire thing.
Not at all. Well, if I'm deflating something, let me
exactly.
get rid of my
Maybe
phone real
Belichick
quick.
had cameras in during this meeting
He very
for
well could
Spygate.
have. That's how. Yeah, it could be.
Yeah, there's never been anything shady with
For
Tom
North
Brady.
Carolina
you're right.
recruiting.
Schultz v. Rappaport. Can't wait to watch that one go down.
You know what? I'd watch it.
I would too. Coming up next, we'll reset our show. Also, I mentioned Abdul Carter. A big update on him yesterday. Could he drop?
That bum.
It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Sixers lose another one. I'm Connor Thomas, and it was a loss to the Knicks this time for the Sixers, who continued their slide, a 110-105 finish. And the conversation continues to grow about the Sixers trying to improve their draft pick in the final stretch of the season. Remember, their pick in the upcoming draft is top 6 protected, which means if it's 6 or better, they'll keep the pick. If it's 7 or worse, it goes to Oklahoma City. So, with that in mind, Paul Hudrick joined the Best Show Ever yesterday and said that tanking seems to be the better option for the team right now.
Till I see a game where Tyrese Maxey just goes nuts and scores 40 and they rally behind him and they win, I think this team is better off trying to accumulate losses.
This team is off till Saturday when they play the Red Hot Warriors, so we'll keep you updated on what goes on with the Sixers and their plans for the rest of the season. Flyers take on the Penguins tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The NFL Combine begins today as top college prospects take the field in Indy. We'll keep you updated on all the news, apparently both on and off the field, out of the Combine. We'll talk to Kevin Nagandi of ESPN coming up at 8:55. This update's brought to you by Groundworks, your expert for basement waterproofing and foundation repair since 1997. Book your free inspection at groundworks.com. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Andrew DeCecco.
Howie Roseman pinpointed Zach Bond as a player that they wanted to target, and he collaborated with Vic, and they got something out of it, and he had an all-pro.
What did you say?
But you were helping
acting
Matt
like idiots.
Puma with some stuff, too, with traffic.
Were you?
So, Brendan Gunn, we were throwing left-handed out there with the ball that we had.
This is going to interest people. What do you got?
Brendan Gunn can't do the wind-up in reverse.
Okay. I bet a lot of people couldn't.
It's the same thing. You just
Yeah, you
reverse
just step
your,
with the other foot.
Yeah, but I bet a lot of people couldn't because if they've never done it.
It took me one try to get it down. It's just the opposite. Instead of your left leg going back first, it's your right leg going back first.
We're not talking about the actual throw, just the act of stepping.
No, I'm not saying I'm Clayton Kershaw. I'm saying like just the motion.
Okay, I got you.
He couldn't figure it out. Like
That's
10
a little
times.
different. I'm not shocked after his bad sports takes this morning.
What was the bad sports take?
He had
this
the
morning?
worst. He had the worst sports takes this morning.
Yeah, he had a rough morning.
Before 6 a.m. that maybe I've ever heard.
And he came in fired up, too.
He came in fired up. He walked into the Pac-Man machine. He walked through the door and walked into the Pac-Man machine. And he was complaining that the first question asked of Joe Shane at the Combine was about Saquon Barkley. What the hell would anybody else want to ask Joe Shane about than Saquon Barkley? It's the number one question that anybody would have an interest at because he was on Hard Knocks. He was a subject of public ridicule about it.
Basically said he wasn't going to pay a running back.
It's the number one question. Hey, you want to reevaluate your decision? We're giving you a life raft here. You want to say something about it?
It's all right.
Now, I will say about Joe Shane, I really hope he doesn't like Abdul Carter in this draft.
Yeah, speaking of, good transition there.
That is a good one. He's not lasting to them, though.
No, he's fallen to 32 to the Eagles.
He's not falling.
We'll see.
Abdul Carter, who obviously was a freak at Penn State,
Absolutely.
is going to go very high in the draft. Now, he is a potential number one overall pick, but could that drop? He has a stress reaction in his right foot and will need to decide soon whether or not he wants to have the surgery. A quote from Drew Rosenhaus, there are mixed opinions on whether or not he needs the surgery, and we will figure that out in the near future. So, look, that's not going to drop him 31 spots, and the Eagles are going to pick him up at 32. But there's a chance that a stud in the draft could drop. Now,
It's not what? Are people going to be doing?
I'm saying,
Hey, should the Eagles draft Abdul Carter?
No, I'm saying
Should they make the move up to get him?
Drop from 1 to 3 is what I'm asking. Right? Like he's gonna fall. Now here's the deal. If you're one of the top 2 picks, you're taking a quarterback, I would imagine. I mean, Tennessee doesn't have a quarterback.
They need one.
Cleveland doesn't have a quarterback.
They got Mayonnaise Boy.
And then the Giants need a quarterback, but you mentioned the Stafford could potentially go to New York.
Yeah, they're talking about that, which to me is so. It would be delicious, and I root for Matt. I like Matt. I would have no problem with him becoming a New York Giant.
Now, if
it's ridiculous.
However, if he became a New York Giant, that means Abdul Carter becomes a New York Giant. So, do you want that?
Wait a minute. Well, that's if nobody trades out. Tennessee, by the way, could trade out. They could trade back.
They could, unless they, want their pick of the litter.
I'm telling you, but the quarterbacks.
I know it's not the same as it usually
The quarterbacks do not. There are some of the draft books that have them that said in a normal year these guys would be back of the first round at best.
Right. But because of the obsession of quarterbacks, that's why they go early. So maybe the Giants move up to 1. We've seen.
By the way, I have no problem if Deion's son ends up being the quarterback of the Giants. I have no problem with it.
It would be a lot of fun to pay attention to.
I'll
be honest.
It would add to the storyline.
Oh my
It'd be a
God,
great division next year. Not necessarily like wins wise, but the storylines would be awesome.
Yeah, the defending Super Bowl champions, the Cowboys are always obviously
interesting.
A talking point. If the Giants have Sanders, and then obviously the Commanders are up and coming.
I've got but while you guys were outside, why don't you do we have the who we're listening to?
Oh, yeah.
Want to get that? And then I'll give you this.
Fanatic, WPN HD1 Burlington, Philadelphia, BZ Media Group Station. We're broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studios. Johnny, powering possibilities.
Got a text from somebody that I trust in the know at the Combine.
Oh, is that right?
While you guys were out throwing left and throwing right.
Yeah. We were doing the real work out there.
I'm going to tell you what you might need to know. Just keep this in your back pocket. Thanksgiving, night or day, or Black Friday, and Christmas.
Both.
Keep them in mind when the Philadelphia Eagles schedule, when you're talking about the schedule coming out.
Thanksgiving sounds good.
There is competition for the networks really want the Eagles in both of those spots, but the Thanksgiving one gives you the options. They can't play the Detroit game.
Right.
The Dallas game, so it would either be the game at Dallas or the game Thanksgiving night,
which is the toss-up,
which is awesome.
Yeah.
Or which could be road or home, or the Black Friday game, which is the big game for Amazon.
Correct.
I think it is. And then Christmas. So I've been told by somebody at the Combine that was chatter that they heard last night at dinner, that Eagles fans should think about Thanksgiving and Christmas having plans.
Just saying, Mr. Vito, Mr. Masteller, you're going to have to talk to my wife about Christmas.
I love it. I love.
You might be hosting
You
the
want
pregame.
Thanksgiving?
You might be hosting the
No.
pregame show.
Thanksgiving's one thing because it can't be the early game. So to me, Thanksgiving would be freaking awesome because the earliest it could be a problem is 4:30. You can adjust your dining plans, so there's no problem. Christmas though?
Yeah, Christmas.
I normally work Thanksgiving anyway, and I'm not a big holidays plans guy. So this is just me personally, but I'll be here. And I like the holiday football when we care about it. I like the Christmas Sixers games. It just gives you something to do on that holiday to pay attention to.
But the thing is, like this year, the Kansas City Chiefs played in Pittsburgh as the defending Super Bowl champs. Played in Pittsburgh at 1:00 on Christmas Day. Like, I mean, that's a bad time. You tell me Christmas night, maybe. What if the game's in Philly? They go, 1:00 game in Philly on Christmas Day.
Well, that's a big Christmas present for a lot of people.
Yeah,
but
it'll
that's
be packed
still
out.
That's a big present for a lot of people.
There's no tailgate. The tailgate scene like normal.
Oh, you
on
want to
Christmas morning?
Oh my God, do the
People with kids?
You know
It'll
how
be
many
more.
Santa Clauses will be
No.
roaming
people
around
with
the
people with
lots?
children are going to go, yeah, I'm going to be there at 5 a.m. at the lots. No, you aren't. You're going to be home opening presents with your kids.
And again,
Family affair.
And again, not many little kids are going to Eagles games.
I understand, but their dads can't go to the tailgate, Andrew. You're not going, yeah, honey, I'm going to we'll open presents tomorrow because I'm going to be at the tailgate at 6 in the morning.
Wait, oh, buddy, I think Santa accidentally put a gift somewhere else. I got to go drive to get it. You're just gone
You're
for
out of your
4
mind.
hours. And
Yeah,
then
4 hours? Are you kidding me? That's going to be. I don't like the Christmas one at all.
No, I don't need football on Christmas.
Thanksgiving would be fun though.
I hate it when the Eagles played 2 years ago. Forget the fact that they were in the midst of the collapse. I hated that it was on Christmas Day.
This was chatter at St. Elmo's too. So
is that right?
That's where there was no fire last night, but there was a little chatter.
All right, what do we have on the text line so far on any of our topics this morning, Connor?
All right, so we have a check-in from Sean here on the Eagles grades that we talked about earlier on the
NFL
show.
Players Association, yep.
And he says those grades mean nothing because at the end of the day, the Eagles held up the Lombardi Trophy. It shows that they fixed everything over the course of the season, or most of the things over the season. Go Birds.
Well, I think that some of it is true. They didn't fix the facilities.
Right. Now,
The facilities
hold
are
on.
a year older.
But let me. I have the deep dive from Jeff McClain. It may not necessarily be all their fault that the facilities are an issue. Obviously, they have to adapt, and that's going to have to change. So Jeff McClain, I mean, this is a 10-page article on the NFL
really did.
PA
Yeah, he
grades.
did.
So I highlighted a couple of things, and one of the issues with the locker room that you've been talking about is the fact that the rosters have expanded. Remember,
correct.
The 53-man roster is not just a 53-man roster. You have your practice squad, which is up to 70 now.
It's a 70-man roster.
Yeah,
right?
70-man roster.
Well, because on any kind of thing, but remember that still is at the facility and then at the team facility and then too at the stadium.
Right. So here's a part from the story of Jeff McClain. A closer look at the survey suggests that the locker room grade wasn't as reflective of how the majority felt about the space. 73% of the players felt that they had enough room in their individual stalls, and 57% thought the locker room size was adequate. Now, look, if somebody says it's an A and then somebody says it's an F, that's obviously going to it's going to put the grade at a C, right?
Absolutely.
It's going to average that out. So there may have been more people that said like B, but there may have been more people that said like D or F. And to your point, the Georgia Bulldogs,
they would look, honestly, if you would look at the Georgia players, they would look at it and say, it's bad.
But this goes to Connor's point. If you're a guy that played for, I don't know, who's Jalen Hunt played for Houston Christian,
well,
right?
that's different.
Right, no, but that was Connor's point that Jalen Hunt knows the Houston Christian locker room and he knows the Lincoln Financial Field NovaCare locker room, right?
Okay.
And he probably thought it was immaculate. So he may have given the Eagles an A.
He could have.
Whereas Jordan Davis is like,
how about this?
What the hell is this?
I will promise you, every one of the SEC guys
probably gave it a low grade.
Would give it a low grade compared to what they were used to. And this isn't, these aren't guys coming from a D3 school.
Right.
You know, these are guys coming from top-notch where the facilities are immaculate. They're beautiful.
Yeah, here's the thing at the end of the day. We don't hear from many people that are members of the Philadelphia Eagles that are discontent with the situation. Like, I know these grades come out and
we
they're
don't
talking
ask
about
them.
things specifically,
Right.
but, like, you don't see angry players with the Philadelphia Eagles organization. Like
No,
that.
this is the stuff, though, that, Connor, we don't ask them about.
Right, because it's not
We
necessarily.
don't talk about this because the fans don't understand.
Well,
By the way,
also,
the
it's
Eagles-
not overly important.
And they will say,
right?
"Oh, this is millionaires crying about their work situation." When you look at how everybody else works in the league and you see what they have, it's not people whining.
I get
It's-
the plane one too. Like, especially look, you're flying back from
It's
Sao
crazy.
Paulo and you're 6'6" and you're sitting in
in a coach seat.
right.
Like, now they've separated the coach seats. You don't have three across.
Right.
But you have a coach seat, whereas I flew in the NHL on private planes, private charters, with everybody with a first-class seat.
By
Now,
the
there's
way-
less people on the plane.
The Eagles getting an F was not the worst grade.
Who got F-?
I did not know you could get an F-. How bad must it be for the Buffalo Bills?
Go look at your transcript. There may have been one on there.
C's get
I'm asking
degrees.
Dean Boardman.
C's get degrees.
There may have been one on there.
There is an interesting line in this story that I'm going to read to you coming up next because it paints the picture of winning
Sure.
is the best medicine
The
for
cologne?
teams. Because there's a line in here that I go, all right, guys, get over yourselves a little bit. I'll tell you that next. Also, today's headlines with Connor Thomas here on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson.
Do you not think that the people that came up with the tush push aren't going to come up with something else you don't like? Not every play is pleasing to the eye.
Talking about the Eagles.
The bottom line is, it's full hatering, and I'm tired of it.
one up here momentarily.
I heard they're going to be great today.
Always.
Prince Harry and Meghan appearing in it, from what I hear.
Yeah, this is
No. Don't
We'll get into it.
Yeah.
You should over almost a year of us working together. You should know me by now.
Prince Harry and Meghan will appear in.
This Inquirer story from Jeff McClain did the deep dive of the NFL
Deep
Players
dive?
Association. Dude, 10 pages.
I
That's
swear
a
to
deep
you.
dive, man.
The book of Leviticus is actually shorter.
So here's a line where I just go, you say the whole this isn't just millionaires complaining or whatever.
Yeah, people will make it out to be like that. Oh, suck it up and go to work.
Some of it is.
Some of it is, but the thing is, you should expect, when you're in an industry, you should expect that you have the tools you need to go about your business that everybody else has.
But here's where I go, some of it is.
All right.
Several players, who of course requested anonymity, told the Inquirer that the improvements still weren't enough because they did improve in certain areas. All right, I'll read the paragraph before. While the Eagles still don't provide child care to players, they did upgrade travel with certain veterans and larger players flying in first class, and they did address the long lines in the cafeteria after the poll was administered. This was from last year's poll. Several players who requested anonymity told the Inquirer the improvements still weren't enough. A few others said that the survey wasn't an accurate reflection because of its timing, which came after last year's collapse and before the regular season. So basically what I get out of this is, yeah, there's probably some issues, but because the team was down,
right,
they gave worse grades.
I would tell you that I know a guy, Bob Hartley, who I covered, coached in the NHL, won a Stanley Cup with Colorado. He did not allow his coaches or anybody in broadcasters, any of us, to sit in the first class section. We all sat in the coach section.
Okay.
In the back. The worst part of the plane. And that was what he felt. There shouldn't be coaches in first class and Jordan Mailata sitting back. That should
when
never.
He's 6'6".
That shouldn't happen. They should do something to refurbish the plane, do something that kind of stuff doesn't happen.
My point is,
and no coach deserves to be in a first class seat over maybe Nick Sirianni, maybe the head coach, but Bob, literally, we sat in the back.
Yeah.
Very back.
My point is, like, it's straight up, they're straight up admitting, ignore those grades because we were upset at the time. It's like if you sent maybe you and your girlfriend split up and you sent a nasty text and then eventually you got back together again. It's like, ignore that text I sent you. We were not in a good place at the time. That's what this line in the story tells me. A few others said the survey wasn't an accurate reflection because of its timing, which came after last year's collapse and before the regular season. So maybe there's a player that's on the team last year that's still on the team this year that will give better grades for the exact same things they didn't like next season.
I think it's really petty. Bitter Betty.
Exactly.
Bitter Betty stuff.
And it shows that winning is a very good cure for a lot of things. I bet you all the grades go up minimally.
Will the maybe not the facility though?
Maybe not. Maybe they're happier now.
When there are opposing stadiums where I know for a fact the visiting locker room would be better than what they've got.
They ain't hanging a banner.
No, I got you. But players care about where they go to work every day.
I know.
But what I'm saying is the banner may be
when a computer doesn't work here or something doesn't work that you need to get your job done. It frustrates you. Or when you know that you should have some tool that you don't have. That's a problem.
I got you.
And that needs to be, and it's not just people whining about, hey, suck it up, millionaires. That's a little different.
All right, it's time now for a fight on today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Today's headlines with Connor Thomas.
Get into it. Just go ahead. Start.
No, he's got real stuff to get to.
You don't think I got other stuff?
Let him get to that.
It's all about you and John Salciunas.
Well, it's not even about me. It's about John.
Sometimes
no, it isn't.
Okay, slow down. My segment. And sometimes it's about other people on these airwaves because Temple basketball had a huge win last night.
Damn right they did.
And hear whose voice was on the call.
Stanford waving his arm, moving to the right, going downhill on Jennings, fading away, has it blocked, gets it back, second chance opportunity. And Temple victorious this evening over South Florida.
The young Ray Dunn calling a game winner for the Temple Owls.
I didn't get to hear Ray call the final shot,
I was about to say, sorry we missed some of it. Great call by Ray.
Great. I mean, look, Ray Dunn knows how to – he's good at this. He's
making
good at
the
it.
rounds. Barstool put the video out with Ray Dunn's voice.
Oh, did they really?
Yeah.
He's really good at
NCAA
it.
March Madness put out the video with Ray's voice. 1.7 million followers.
The
ladies
young
and
Ray Dunn.
gentlemen.
It's great to support people that you work with.
Well, because
And I love it.
you want to support him now because one day
You're
going
gonna
to
want to get him on your show.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
and
great
when
to
Ray
support
says, yeah,
unless the Instagram following is in question.
Okay.
Johnny?
I found out something today
Yep, and you were offended.
that my partner followed me on Instagram.
Yeah.
We've been working together how long?
Almost a year.
And I wasn't so offended by the fact that he finally followed me on Instagram. But the fact that he followed like everybody in this freaking building. And then I was like, well, wait a minute, who's this? He follows Prince Harry and Meghan. What the hell are you following Prince Harry and Meghan for? And by the way, you're following people that like, seriously, dude, it's ridiculous.
I don't know
What do you
you're
got to say
talking
for
about.
yourself?
I don't use my Instagram other than collaborating.
You do collaborate well.
We're collabers.
And I thought we were collaborating well in our tenure.
And I've only started that because of Haley, who's doing a great job. So your honor. I'm not a big Instagram guy. I only have 100. I only follow 140 people. It's not that I don't
Yeah,
want
I was
to.
the 140th, Connor.
Congratulations. No. I followed like 50 people yesterday.
No, I was the last one on your followers.
That doesn't mean that I followed you last. That's
Yeah,
not,
when you check followers from your perspective, it shows your account first.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's
I
not,
didn't
that's not,
realize
yeah,
that.
that's
Okay.
not how that works.
Well, you mean so you followed? Did you follow Prince Harry and Meghan yesterday?
No, but I will tell you something.
Why
So,
were you following them?
I was told a couple of years ago to try to boost my Instagram account because that would be good for sales, which is part of our MO here at work. And I don't know how to Instagram. I've been told that my Instagram posts suck.
I don't know how to
like
Instagram.
no, seriously,
Yes.
like there's a way to gram. That's why Haley's like an expert at TikTok
She is.
and all that kind of
She
stuff.
tells us what to do, and we just follow her.
So, admittedly, I had a ghost person. It was my wife. And I would not be surprised if she thought she was on her account and followed the Royals because she is obsessed with
Oh
it.
no! So my wife with the two.
I know,
But Prince
dude,
Harry and Meghan. My wife can't stand them.
My wife is obsessed.
She loves the Royals. She doesn't like them.
She reads books about them. She
Oh,
listens to podcasts about
Reasonable, but
more
circumstantial.
so the dirt.
So
She
you're
likes the dirt.
blaming your wife.
I don't think I
Absolutely.
can sustain that argument.
I know. I will 100% blame my wife, and I'm not ashamed to do it.
In a court of law, beyond a reasonable doubt,
But-
we have not cleared that.
What you should be proud of is that you are one of just 140 people that I follow. Instead
Really?
of being upset that I just followed you, be happy that you are being followed.
Okay.
It's an exclusive group.
It's
It is. It's really
very
exclusive.
All
exclusive
right, you
group.
guys can settle this in the break. We have one more exclusive group that we got to see. Tankathon for today.
Oh, what
Are
do we
the
got?
Sixers
Yours have sucked.
Oh, okay, I'm
All
not
right.
in charge of this. It's a random thing. We're going to sim the lottery right now,
All right.
and the Sixers stay at 6th. They keep their pick.
All right, that's good.
We've gone
Yeah,
from
but
8th
there's only
to
like
7th
5 great guys.
to 6th.
Sorry, but at least they got a pick.
At least they get somebody.
At least they get
You
some.
got Maxey in the 20s, McCain in the 20s.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you could get it done.
Yeah, I just need somebody because this season, if this season
Oh,
were,
my gosh.
were did not even get a pick out of it at the end,
It's terrible.
that's an all-time disastrous season.
They're not going any worse than the 5th, though.
In all seriousness, would this be an all-time disastrous
No,
season?
it is. It's right there.
No, but I'm saying if you also don't get a pick out of it,
no, it's awful.
like I'm saying all time, not just
Yes.
Philadelphia.
All time.
Wild, dude. All right, coming up next, we talk about Prince Harry and Meghan Markle some more because I know all about them because I follow them on social
Not
media.
Prince Harry.
Oh, you're right. Just Harry. Coming up next, updates from the Combine. No, not the Underwear Olympics itself, but obviously a lot of rules are being discussed. An update on the tush push, penalties that could be reviewed, and some rules finally are coming to the NFL. It's Kincade and Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
The losing streak continues. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Sixers dropped another game last night. They fell to the Knicks 110-105. The conversation continues to grow about the Sixers trying to improve their draft pick standing in the final stretch of the season. Paul Hudrick joined the Best Show Ever yesterday and said that trying to improve that standing seems to be the better option for the team right now.
Till I see a game where Tyrese Maxey just goes nuts and scores 40 and they rally behind him and they win, I think this team is better off trying to accumulate losses.
We'll see what the strategy is for the Sixers. They're off till Saturday when they'll host the Warriors. Flyers take on the Penguins tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The NFL Combine begins today as the top college prospects take the field in Indy. We'll keep you updated on all the news out of the Combine right here on The Fanatic. Kevin Nagati of ESPN joins us at 8:55. This update's brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Download the app today. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Vacation.
Like, it's amazing that he's
big of him to do it, isn't it?
He's doing that for the state of the team.
Isn't that great?
If I see him tonight at the Sixers Youth Gala, I will commend him for it.
You really should, because he's going the extra mile. No, he's not. In fact, he's doing the bare minimum for his teammates. That's the bare minimum. Yeah, I'm gonna focus on the main thing of the job. Yeah, and he said it like he was a martyr.
Now, look,
honestly, he did.
I do believe
what
deep down that he thinks he's doing something.
Really?
Well, because he had the quote
when they're 18 games under 500.
I know he had the quote in the locker room after the Bulls game, where he said this team is not, acting like a playoff team. Blah blah.
Okay.
And then he does the sign off of the podcast. I think he thinks he did something. People are naive to life, John. Like, you know that, right?
Absolutely. There are people who are.
It's like
they just go about their business.
Let's say you drive somebody 5 hours, and they go, you know what? I'm going to help them out with the gas. Here's $5.
$5, and they drove 5 hours.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, Paul George, and they think that person that gave the 5.
I did something. Paul
George probably thinks he is actually doing something to benefit the team right now. Where the context of it all, they're 17, now 18 games under 500. You didn't do squat, dude. And I still don't even think the podcast was that much of a factor in any of this. But
I don't think the podcast is distracting him, but it shows his lack of awareness.
Well, that's the big
I do
one.
Believe
the,
I think
the
it's
awareness.
I think it's a complete lack of awareness when you're worried about the stupid ass podcast.
Now there's
and by the way, it's a bad podcast. That's another issue. Not well done.
Stat Mamba on Twitter.
Oh, I like Stat Mamba.
Paul George this season. 153 podcast videos, 227 shots made.
That's fantastic. That is absolutely fantastic. Next level. Stat Mamba.
And that's horrible that's accurate.
Well, that gap's going to grow now.
Yeah, exactly.
No,
beat the narrative, Paul George. I'm proud of you.
I truly do think it's crazy. Like,
it's insane.
The side hustle should never overlook what the main drag is.
No.
Seriously.
It should not. All right, so a couple of updates from the Combine. Obviously, they have not started the workouts yet. It's rule changes and all the league meetings. We already told you earlier today that despite Sean McDermott's hypocrisy and the Packers and the Commanders claiming the injury effect with the tush push, NFL executive Troy Vincent said there are 0 injuries from the tush push in 2024. So the whole, oh, man, this is a dangerous play. It's risking injury.
Totally.
From the coach that runs it the second most times in the NFL, by the way. It's been determined that there were 0 injuries from the tush push. So that was an announcement yesterday from the Combine. Another thing that I am curious by, I think they're heading in the right direction, but I think they're going about it wrong. The NFL is considering, not official, but considering expanded replay assists for several fouls in 2025, but only if they're called on the field. So remember a couple years ago they tried doing the pass interference.
Correct.
But it didn't work. They couldn't figure out the hell they were doing. They are looking to review certain penalty calls, but Troy Vincent said that putting down a flag to try to get a flag is a non-starter, which is why I think they're going about it the wrong way. And the video that Tom Pelissaro very brightly posted was the play in the playoffs when Sam Darnold's face got ripped off its head by the face mask that they somehow missed in the fourth quarter.
Okay.
That should be reviewed.
It should be.
But it's not because a flag wasn't thrown. To me, there's more missed face masks than face masks called that weren't actual face mask penalties.
Yeah, here's all I'd do. I would give an extra challenge to coaches. I know it's going to slow the game down a little bit, but give an extra because you're expanding the amount of times they can use it and open everything up for challenges. Now, some are going to be tougher to review and overturn than others, but that is the risk that you take if you choose to challenge those plays. Put the onus on someone apart from the officials so that they don't have to change the way they officiate the game. Give the coaches a little more ability to say, dude, you totally missed this one. I'm going to challenge this. And it's just coach's word. Hey, Darnold got face masked. I want you to look at it. Here's the challenge.
Yeah.
I think that's simple.
But that's not what they're going to do. What they're going to do is, was that actually a face mask? Let's review it. It should be, we missed the face mask.
It should be that.
We can check. Because the Sam Darnold one's egregious. Remember Miles Sanders when he was doing returns for returning kicks for the Eagles? His head got literally ripped off its head.
It got turned.
And
completely.
No penalty flag, which is an egregious miss. But that should be reviewed because that's a 15-yard penalty. And you want to talk about player safety. Somebody's neck is getting spun around. That's something that should probably be reviewed. So I think the NFL maybe might be trending that way, but I think they're missing it with this first initial step toward it.
That seems like it's half-assed.
Yeah.
Little half-assed.
Well, you have to half-ass because you want to make these little concessions as you work towards something so you don't go too far. That's kind of the way they always go about it, right?
How would going too far, though? Well, honestly, how would you consider going too far?
If somebody's hand goes through a face mask, that should be reviewed.
Right, but you don't know what Pandora's box is with what you can and can't review. Like baseball right now, doing the ABS in spring training in 60% of games. They could absolutely institute it.
But you can for specific penalties. You don't have to do every penalty is reviewed because then the game will never end, especially with holdings on the line of scrimmage.
Right, I got you.
All that kind of stuff. But if you say, because they tried it with just pass interference a few years ago, and it didn't, obviously it failed, but they didn't implement all penalties. It was just pass interference. They should be able to make a rule of whether or not a guy's face mask is grabbed.
I got you. But if they're going to be more cautious than more aggressive, I get that because that's how leagues always handle changes to the rules. They make these slight alterations. If they work, they may take them further. If not, you could take them back rather than trying to completely change the sport with a heavier change in the ruling.
All right.
That's very reasonable of you, Connor.
Other stuff.
I try sometimes.
The NFL wants to bring back onside kicks, like the way
the onside kicks should be brought back.
That was weird last year.
It's strategy.
Yeah,
it's strategy. Why? I don't get it.
Well, because remember the weird thing was you had to announce it, and then you lined up differently because of it. Now I don't know how they would make that work because guys are lined up.
No, it's when you remember I think what they're changing is that you can. There's no more restrictions of when you can announce it.
Okay, so it's not just the fourth quarter or whatever.
I think they're changing that.
Okay.
Is the assumption. You're still going to line up this new stupid kickoff rule, but you're going to be able to, if you wanted to announce it in the first quarter, second quarter, third quarter.
Yeah, you can try it. Okay. Yeah. All right, fair enough.
That's what I think I heard yesterday on NFL Live.
And then this one, I can't believe it's taken this long. They're going to put a chip in the football, finally.
That's finally.
I don't know how it's taken this long.
Okay, here's what I want to understand. Doesn't everything, and I know these things are lightweight and everything, doesn't everything affect, I'm going back to physics.
I get what you're saying.
Doesn't everything that would be put into something affect the flight, the weight? The flight of the ball would be potentially affected by a chip.
These microchips can be less than a gram.
And I think
it won't make a difference.
Like a raisin.
It would be one of those 0.0000001% changes, but to the path that the football takes from the quarterback's hand to the receiver.
Right, exactly.
It could make all the difference. We know that football is a game of inches and all that kind of stuff, but that didn't even cross my mind.
The chain gang going away would be the best thing in the world.
They will still be there.
But the chain gang is the backup. That's fine. And honestly, you don't need the chain gang anymore. All you need, right? You don't need the chain gang. All you need is the guys to just put 10.
Yeah.
10.
Well, the chain gang, the reason why they have the big sticks is to make it more visible to the players.
For the players. So
the pylon you can't see as well, the tall ones. I like the chain gang just because I like to see them shuffle up and down the field.
But here's
it makes
the thing.
it feel like old school football.
Not that anybody's complaining about the pace of football. Football flies by. But that now, games are going to be faster.
Well, faster.
Because you're not going to have to do the whole, no, there's going to be
and the chain gang doesn't have to be like 55. You can maybe have 20-year-olds be the chain gang.
Bunch of 25-year-olds.
Let's
go.
All right,
I've never understood that.
We are our man Kevin Nagandi coming up to join us at 8:55 today. But before that, because we get to talk about everything with Kevin, all the sport. Coming up next, we haven't even reached first pitch yet of opening day, and John is already. Can I use the word angry or just frustrated?
No, frustrated.
Frustrated with the Phillies' potential lineup potential
because they aren't like the Eagles.
Phillies lineup construction. Connor, be ready. This should be a fun segment coming your way next. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Mike Missanelli, Bill Colarulo, and Ray Dunn. They have a lot to say about Philadelphia's.
on Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic. We got our man Kevin Agandi coming up at 8:55. He had his nice Temple event with Woj earlier this week.
Looked like a successful event, which is good.
Yeah, so we get to ask him about that coming up in a little bit. But before we get to our man Kevin Agandi, we're going to take a quick respite from the Eagles. And Paul George's sacrifice of the podcast, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Phillies. Now, yesterday they had the lineup that included Trey Turner in the leadoff spot, Kyle Schwarber in the 2-hole, Harper batted third. What was it? Bohm fourth, Stott fifth. Castellanos did not play yesterday, so I imagine he would be the typical 5-hole hitter. Stott would be sixth. Real Muto would be seventh, but Castellanos did not play yesterday. You are frustrated with the construction of the lineup.
Well, I'm more construed by the construed. A bit annoyed.
Okay.
By the conversations that have gone on around it, by the people who cover the Phillies. So it's not me being. This is something that is being discussed by people who cover the team. Well, even though in baseball it is widely accepted that your best player bats second, best bat should bat second. Bryce Harper doesn't, because Bryce Harper, I'm a 3-hole hitter. He even explained it, quoting 2 different quotes from the week. Well, I'm a 3-hole hitter. You know, I'm a 3-hole guy. Okay. So, in other words, he doesn't want, he wants to be in the 3. So it's like, okay, well, we're going to disregard what we know is better and put him at 3. And then you have the whole thing with Schwarber. Well, I like batting leadoff. That's what I prefer. So, yeah, I'll bet second. I'll bet whatever they need me to do. You know what I prefer. This team, unfortunately, in so many ways, Rob Thompson does a lot of things really well as a manager. Really well. And managing a group of guys for 162 is part of it. And keeping them, happy and working things. Catering to every desire that they've got is not part of the job description.
Now,
let me just finish.
Yeah,
Charlie Manuel would not say, "Oh well, you want to do that, but this is what's best for the team." Oh, but you want to do that? Okay, well, you're going to do that then. That's not how great managers do it. That's not how great coaches in any sport do it. You subject what you want for the betterment of the team.
Comfortability is still a part of the managerial decisions.
Well, then you learn to be comfortable. That paycheck should make you very comfortable.
Like I look at relievers. There are some guys that are electric in the 8th inning, and then they pee themselves in the 9th inning.
A pitching thing, that's absolutely different than your batting order every day, 162, and how it affects the team.
I played high school baseball. I loved batting 6th. That was my favorite spot in the order.
Okay.
So,
where'd you bat, Andy?
6th.
Look at that.
Yeah, it's great. Now we're really getting into ridiculous comparisons.
We'll do ridiculous if you want to do ridiculous.
Yes, let's do it.
Where does this base premise that your best hitter, widely accepted, bats second?
Yeah, I don't get that one either.
The most productive bat in your lineup, the best place you want them, is second.
Who do you believe is the best hitter on the Dodgers?
What do you mean?
Who do you believe is the best hitter on the Dodgers?
Well, Shohei Ohtani.
He bats leadoff.
Well, then you get me into then you fell right into it.
No.
I want Harper first.
Who do you believe?
I want Harper to bat first.
So then you don't believe your premise.
No,
I'm going to
I believe that they think batting second.
Okay.
I want Harper first.
Well, I did some research.
Who do you believe
Andy.
I have one more thing.
What?
Who do you believe is the best hitter on the Yankees? I'm just going to the 2 World Series.
I wrote down
teams.
all these names.
And
I
going
have
to one.
all of them.
Huh?
You're going to 1.
No, Aaron Judge bats 3rd.
Yeah, but
Aaron Judge is projected to bat second this year.
He's going to bat second.
Let me run through it because the whole break I wrote down names.
Okay.
Now I got through the American League. But for Toronto, they have Bo Bichette batting second. They have Vladdy batting third. I'd argue Vladdy's a better batter. That's close.
I think it's close, but I agree. I would lean with you.
Let's go to the Detroit Tigers. Made a good playoff run last year.
Yeah.
They have Matty Carshield batting second. Matt Vierling's their 2-hole. Riley Green's batting 3. Riley Green's a significantly better hitter. Now, there are teams like the Royals that have Bobby Witt batting second. The Yankees are projected to have Aaron Judge bat second. But the Cleveland Guardians, who played in the ALCS last year, have Kyle Manzardo batting second and Jose Ramirez batting third.
I would say Jose is a better batter.
By a mile. I mean,
Correct.
You could go all over the place, and it flips based on the team. There's no widely accepted this guy bats second.
It's the statistical results say second.
What statistical results?
The baseball analytics tell you second.
Right,
And that is
which
from a
ones?
Major League Baseball general manager sharing it with me yesterday going, yeah, 2. But they don't necessarily agree with it either, by the way. They're also of the belief, this general manager says, I'm not necessarily in the belief of that. But I do know I would want to get Harper more at bats.
Okay, if that's your argument, that's totally fine.
I want Harper to bat leadoff. I honestly do.
And I don't disagree with you.
He runs the bases recklessly. He has that reckless abandon, and you're clogging up. But the worry about, I don't give a damn about, you got to get over the comfort. There's a lot of Eagles players that subjected their stuff, like A.J. Brown, like Devontae Smith, and others, for the good of the team this year, for them to win a Super Bowl, by having a run-heavy offense that literally made them less significant, that made their stats less significant. I never heard A.J. Brown bitching about it.
Okay.
Never heard of, like, to me, that is subjecting what's best. What you've done hasn't worked and has also caused you, when the going gets the toughest, this Phillies lineup doesn't work.
Right. It's too short-sighted to say the reason the Philadelphia Phillies lineup has not worked in the postseason, because it's worked in the regular season largely over the past 3 years, to say it's comfortability with the spots the guys are batting, and that's why they won't change
Well, I don't want to hear about, and by the way, Judge is moving, and he'd go read the New York Post.
He's moving because Soto's out.
He's moving because Soto's out.
Right.
But he's also
he was
moving
the best
because
hitter on the team
but he
last year.
didn't want to bat second. He did not want to move to second.
Okay.
He's moving to second because the organization said, this is the best place
And
for
I'm
you.
going to tell you something right now.
What?
Not that I expect Judge to struggle, because he's a damn freak. If he were to struggle, he'd go back to 3.
Well, they can always mess with the lineup. But the thing is, what you get with Rob Thompson is, oh, well, I'm going to use Trey Turner's brought here to be a leadoff hitter. That's where he's effective. He's brought here to do it, and they give it 14 games. That's not how you do it.
He stunk, John.
But that's not, you don't do it in 14 games,
are they
Connor.
projecting right
Because
now
you're
to
saying,
be the leadoff
You're
hitter?
saying too small a sample size. You use that all the time.
I understand.
2 weeks is not for a guy who was highly successful in that
That
position.
team was choking with him at
Who
leadoff.
are
can't
they
do that.
projecting to bat leadoff this year?
It's going to be Trey Turner.
So they're making the change you want. So what
No.
are we frustrated about?
Because
he wants
then,
Harper, too.
Then they're going to leave Harper at 3 because, well, you know I'm a 3-hole hitter. That's his reasoning.
And I'm,
You
That's
know I'm a
totally
3-hole
fine
hitter.
reasoning.
No, it isn't.
I am totally fine with it.
That's not good reasoning.
That's how baseball lineups have always worked and will always work. Guys are comfortable at spots.
That's not how it's working right now for a team that lost the World Series.
Okay,
And
well,
the team, that,
obviously
the team
it's
that
not
won the
always
World
how it
Series,
works.
Otani was batting leadoff.
No, but I'm fine with that. You want to put Harper leadoff, that's fine. But I don't give a damn about,
you're
I'm
okay.
a 3-hole hitter,
You're okay
guys.
if players are comfortable in the position you're comfortable with.
No, I want to see them. I don't want to see do the same things 3 years in a row, and you tell me it's all right.
They're not.
They're going to.
They're not.
How long do you think he's going to stick with it?
We'll find out.
How long do you think he's going to stick with it?
If it keeps on going well, they'll keep playing him.
Exactly. So when he makes the change, it's like the minute this guy blinks, the minute it's like, oh, this isn't working.
I don't think so.
14
Not this
games
time.
is not enough.
I don't think it'll be 14 games.
Stick
this
with
time.
it.
Kevin Agandi joins us next. It is Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Sixers fall to the Knicks. I'm Connor Thomas, and it was another loss in the losing streak for your Philadelphia 76ers last night. A 110-105 finish from the Garden. The conversation now continues to grow about the Sixers' strategy for the remaining games this season. Do they look to try and improve their draft pick? Well, Paul Hudrick joined the best show ever yesterday and said that tanking seems to be the better option for this team right now.
Until I see a game where Tyrese Maxey just goes nuts and scores 40 and they rally behind him and they win, I think this team is better off trying to accumulate losses.
So they're off till Saturday to try and figure out how they're going to handle this. They'll host the Warriors. We'll see if anything changes. Flyers take on the Penguins tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. The NFL Combine begins today as the top college prospects take the field in Indianapolis for their workouts. We'll keep you updated on all the news out of the Combine. Kevin Agandi of ESPN will join us coming up at 8:55. This update is brought to you by, let me get the right sponsor here, Allstate. Look at that. Shout out Allstate. Some people just know you could save money on car insurance by checking Allstate first. So what are you waiting for? Check Allstate first for a quote today. You're in good hands with Allstate. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers. 97.5 The Fanatic and 97.5thefanatic.com.
Eagles Channel.
97.5 The Fanatic on this championship Thursday morning, and that means at this time we are joined by our man from ESPN on the Comcast Business Hotline. Every day in business is a big day. Let Comcast Business help you move forward with what's next. Our man Kevin Agandi. Kevin, good morning. How you doing, man?
Good morning, Junius. Good morning, John. How we doing, guys?
We are doing fantastic. We have a bunch of topics on the docket today that we can't wait to get to with you today. First and foremost, we are celebrating the major sacrifice that was made by one of the members of the Sixers. And no, not the report that Joel Embiid might have his hip realigned. I'm talking about podcast playoff P.
Play-in Paul is what I'm calling him right now. Till they get in the play-in tournament.
I mean, how much do you celebrate the major sacrifice that he's making?
Listen, if that produces 25 points, I know it's a loss, but we'll take it. Listen, John just said play in. No. Get a top 6 pick.
Oh, I know. That's what I want, too.
Oh, so should it be tanking P? Is that what we're going to call
I thought he
him
was
now?
doing that already.
Yeah.
Process P, as Connor Thomas says.
It's all I care about is making sure Tyrese Maxey is good to go, and this team can in a draft that I think has a ton of talent that can lock in a top 6 pick. That to me is now the priority for this. That I would make as a priority for the Sixers, and then you got to reevaluate what you want to do with Paul George and his future in Philadelphia.
I said this to John earlier. God forbid, worst case scenario, they don't make the playoffs, but the lottery balls don't go their way. Would this be a historically bad season? I'm not even saying for the Sixers. I'm saying for any team in any sport that had legitimate playoff expectations, potential championship expectations, not that many believed it here, and then you don't even get a pick out of it because it's top 6 after the 6 spots, it's no longer protected.
I think it would be one of the most disappointing seasons in Sixers history with the expectations coming in and the hope and the belief of where this team was and where they could be. It's hard to say it's one of the most disappointing seasons in, bigger terms outside of Sixers basketball because, guys, I think sometimes people forget. Look at where the Suns are right now, and from a national perspective, because it's what I do every day, the Suns are a bigger disappointment than the Sixers. They legit had a big 3, and they are awful.
Yeah, they're under 500.
And you can't make the excuse that they're not healthy because the Sixers have that excuse. The star player, Joel Embiid, has not been healthy all season. Paul George has not been healthy most of the season. So when you look at the Suns are awful, and they have healthy players and healthy stars, and they still can't win. And they are in some serious trouble when you look at their cap and their situation with draft picks and what they mortgaged for the future to win now. And for them not to be even in the Western Conference conversation, it says a lot about the disappointment. I think that team is the most disappointing team in recent memory.
Kevin, has Nick Nurse disappointed you at all?
I don't know. When they brought in Nick, the one thing I thought was they would play hard. They would play for the coach.
That's what I thought.
It's Nick. One thing I see sometimes from Nick is so much frustration boiling over, and I don't know if Nick would have taken the job if he knew that he would have Joel not play the majority of the games and deal with all these injuries. So it's hard for me to judge Nick Nurse. It really is, just because he hasn't had a complete team. And sometimes it's hard to judge a coach with the availability not being there when you come in and you come with this impression that you're going to have guys that are going to all play together. So to me, it's hard to give out a grade. You can give them a grade of, hey, we shall see, or if you want to give them a C, but I don't know if you can give them anything above a C because you just don't know. I don't think you can give them below a C because the unknown it's kind of an incomplete because we don't have everybody.
Yeah, and I still think, and you're listening to 97.5 The Fanatic, WPN, WPN HD1, Burlington, Philadelphia, Beasley Media Group Station, broadcasting live from the Comcast Business Studio, powering possibilities. I still think it is horrible that they are making Nick Nurse have to answer every question. I'm looking for Daryl Morey to address the media. I know he did.
If you find him, would you please send him our way?
I know he did recently, obviously after the trade deadline, but this is very reminiscent, and I know expectations-wise totally different. But, Kevin, this is reminiscent to the early years of the process when Brett Brown had to be the one to face the media every single night about Embiid and not knowing what the plan was when Sam Hinkie was hiding. And I got to be honest, I feel somewhat bad for Nick Nurse because he has to answer all these questions. Where's Daryl at?
I do feel bad for Nick. I also think that Nick has to answer it because after every game you have to be available.
Of course,
right.
To me, this feels like if Daryl. Here's one thing I will say about Daryl. Daryl's not shy. If Daryl has something to say, Daryl will say it. If you look at his history, he will face the music if he has to.
He's been shy I got to tell you, he's been shy with us, Kevin, here in this market. He's been shy.
I mean, he addressed what was it 2 weeks ago, and they haven't won a game.
Well, that was the trade deadline, so that was more mandatory.
We would look forward to talking to him all the time, and it's been very uncooperative.
It is a league that is dominated by players, right, and players' decisions. This leads me to believe that there are some things that they don't have answers to, and they have to wait on decisions made by players on what the future is going to be like. And if you don't have those answers, you're put in a position of what are you going to say?
Well, the thing is, though, you know what you can answer, Kev? You can answer why in the hell would you give a 3-year max extension to Joel Embiid when you didn't have to, knowing what he was facing? That's a question you can answer.
That is a question you can answer, absolutely. And guess what? At the end of the season, I'm sure he's going to face that music. What was the thinking and the process behind handing out a contract when you didn't have to? But we also know if that was hanging over the head with us unaware of the injuries, we also know that I think there was going to be a contingency saying, you got to make sure you secure Joel Embiid because the rumors are going to be always swirling that he wants out, he wants out, he wants out. So there's always that other side of, hey, the unknown. Why are you not securing him? It's going to be in trade rumors. The NBA thrives on the idea of rumors, right? And, what's the next thing? So if the Sixers, there's another little layer to this, is the unknown of where the health status was this summer or this past summer, going into the Olympics, coming to out of the Olympics, because clearly the knee wasn't right. Because he sat during some time at the Olympics, and why allow it? Why was that the case? And protecting the franchise is a lot bigger than playing the Olympics.
Kevin, do you make anything of the NFL Players Association polling? Obviously, that comes out during training camp. So this was
the votes came in training camp.
Months before the Eagles won 10 straight games, and months before the Eagles ran through the playoffs and won the Super Bowl. But when it comes to all the voting, all the between facilities, ownership, coaching, how much do you buy into it?
I think it's actually great. Like the idea that we found out that the Patriots charter plane has ashtrays in it, no Wi-Fi. Like, what are we doing? Like that blew me away. The most revealing, two of the most revealing parts of it was, the Bengals getting an F-. I think their owner is the worst owner in all of sports. We've heard Joe Burrow talk about trying to keep their players. I think that owner is awful. And I think more and more players speaking out about it, and drawing attention to it, it circles a big target on what the Bengals are going to do this offseason and making sure that they have Jamar Chase and T. Higgins and Trey Hendrickson. I also find it fascinating that the Dolphins get A+ across the board. Easy to do when you're in Miami, but it doesn't produce any results there. And
well, they got rid of the defensive coordinator that was too hard on them. So of course they loved it.
Street, right?
But Kevin, I know you've seen the Georgia locker room. I know you've seen the facilities at Alabama and everything like that. When these guys get to the NFL, they're expecting better or comparable. They don't
That's a
have
great point.
they don't have comparable in the NFL when you're coming out of these SEC schools at least.
That's a great point. And you could throw in Clemson and Ohio
Clemson.
State.
Yeah, Clemson has the
Well,
slide.
right?
Have you done the sliding board? I've done the sliding board at
I've
Clemson.
seen it. Marty Smith has told me about it many times.
Yeah, I got to do the sliding board.
Yeah, so that's actually a great point. And that when you're recruiting in the SEC and you're bringing these players from the SEC, which Howie has done, and he's nailed many of those picks in the first 3 rounds of bringing some SEC talent over the last 4 years, you've got to make sure you're upgraded, right?
Yes.
What can you control, though? There's a couple things you can control. How about family treatment, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah.
And I saw the Bengals got an F-. The Jets ownership getting an F. The difference in the Washington Commanders, and we all know who owns the Commanders and how that's tied to Philadelphia when we talk about our basketball team. They've never been shy in spending money with the Sixers. Now we're seeing that they're not going to be shy in spending money with the Commanders.
Yeah.
I found all those things. I like that stuff. I think that stuff is fascinating because it gives the players a voice, right?
Sure.
And you learn a thing or two about how they handle stuff and how they approach things and things you can control. You can control. Listen, if you have a charter plane, you can rip the seats out and install better seats
And
that
have
don't
Wi-Fi.
ashtrays from,
How do you not have Wi-Fi?
The 1970s at Pan Am, right?
Yes.
So I find that interesting.
Andrew doesn't know what Pan Am is, but it's all right.
That's true.
It's all right.
You don't know Pan Am, you don't know Eastern, you don't know TWA, you don't know the old
Value
days.
Jet. You don't know
No, I
any
knew,
of this
I knew
stuff.
Value Jet.
You know
I know
Jet?
Value Jet. This is
Okay.
courtesy of my father. Yeah,
there you
I
go.
know that one. So don't you worry, Kevin. Listen, man, we appreciate the time as always, brother. And wait, first of all, I know I texted you. How did the event go the other night?
It was fantastic. Great to be back on campus at Temple University and see so many great and familiar faces and be inside the Leah Corrs Center with my man Woj, raise money for our collectives at St. Bonaventure and the Tough Fund at Temple. And how about a win last night? A buzzer beater. Shout out
awesome.
to Zion and Temple Hoops to get that win. They
Kevin,
needed it.
a name to remember. Ray Dunn.
Ray's the play-by-play guy on the call. Our own Ray Dunn from the Fanatic. Maybe that could make the 6 o'clock Sports Center tonight.
He was the guy on the call that ESPN tweeted out. A lot of people tweeted it out. So, and another
push.
owl, Kevin.
I will push for that. And I want to add one small thing. You guys being Temple alums,
Sure.
as well as a Temple audience here. A small little thing that stood out to me, and I said it multiple times Tuesday night. I said it to the team afterwards. That basketball team was in a 6-game losing streak, dealt with a lot of injuries, heartbreak losses in overtime. I've been in many locker rooms where there have been World Series champs, Super Bowl champs, Stanley Cup champs, NBA champs. I've been with teams that have winning streaks, losing streaks. You could be around a team that likes each other and hates each other, and you can notice those small things. For a team that had lost 6 straight, their practice on Tuesday was fantastic. And my messaging to them was, you're going to figure out a way, because you could genuinely notice that there's a culture here built by Adam Fisher in year 2. And to see that team respond without 4 players, including Jamal Mashburn Jr., and to see how they played last night with heart, that makes me proud to be a Temple alum.
There
That
you
was
go.
a great win last night.
Damn right,
Great job,
Kevin.
Kev.
We appreciate it, brother. Good luck with everything else moving forward. We'll talk to you next week.
Appreciate you, fellas. Go Birds!
Go Birds. There he is. Kevin
I love
Gandhi on the Comcast Business
It's
Hotline.
February. We're still getting the good.
It's Go Birds all season. It's championship. It's a championship Thursday, Johnny.
It's everywhere. It's everywhere, though. The happiness right now is everywhere.
All right, coming up next, we get back to our text messages. Been a while since we checked the text line, so we'll get back to it and have some more fun with this Phillies discussion, because there was somebody that agreed with you on social media.
Where you want to be.
And he sent you the information that I've already refuted.
Okay.
About the amount of times 2 outs, nobody
Well,
on.
you can't refute it. It's fact.
Sorry, I can use context to explain.
You can use context to explain your opinion.
Yes.
Right.
It is Kincade and Salciunas here on 97.5 The Fanatic.
Tyrone Johnson, Ricky Vitalico, and
Menard some Bagsters, by the way.
Why
Our
is
own
that?
Matt Menard. Because he's got some work to do around the house, like some things to do. And I said, I'm going to get you a couple bags.
Well, yeah, that will definitely help him out.
I said, they sponsor our 9 o'clock hour. It's great, and they're great people.
Damn right. Sean checks in on social media, agreeing with you about the batting order discussion.
Okay.
The only thing is he sent us the what you told us the other day, the times the batter comes up with 2 outs and nobody on.
Correct.
And the 3-hole hitter is more than double the first and second hitters.
Okay.
But I need to provide context to that.
And you can do that.
To Sean, because Sean said, Andrew, Connor, please see below. There's a reason why the batter who bats first in the order is less than half the amount of times the 3-hole hitter. Because every game they lead off, their first at-bat is nobody on, nobody out.
Okay.
The 2-hole hitter is guaranteed every game to come up to bat with either nobody on or one man on, 1 out, no outs, maybe the leadoff hitter, it's a solo shot.
Okay, but
right?
it still happens then, is what you're telling me.
Yes, but over the course of the game, it may not end up mattering.
But over the course of a season, it does matter.
Well, so we're basically saying is 25% of the time, let's say 4 at-bats is average for a Major League Baseball.
That's probably right, yeah.
25% of those players at-bats over the season, it is impossible for that scenario to happen.
Yeah, the leadoff hitter, it's a 100% guarantee that they come up to bat with nobody on, nobody out.
And the 2-hole, 100% chance that they're not in the scenario that we're talking about.
That is correct.
Yeah.
That is absolutely correct to give it some context. It's also correct, though, to say over the course of a year, the entire season, it is not the best place if you have somebody to knock people in, less opportunity.
I get what you're saying.
I know you don't agree with it, and I don't.
I just don't agree
by
with
the way, I do not necessarily
right. And
agree with
again,
it all,
the reason
because I think your context that you guys present, the context there matters.
Yeah, and to Sean, I'll go one step further to Sean. The second highest batting spot in the batting order where you come up to bat, nobody on, 2 out, is 6th. Because if a team goes down 1, 2, 3 to start the game, and then 4 and 5 go down to start the second inning, you're coming up to bat with nobody on, 2 outs, more often than any other place in the order.
But you could also say for a team like the Phillies that a guy that it's less likely, isn't it, that the Phillies would have 1 and 2 not get on base? One of them?
I mean, comparatively to other MLB teams
across the league.
Yeah, it's the most
because they're on base percentage.
I mean, it's a complex conversation. But my issue is more with the fact is the manager absolutely is subservient to player desires in this situation, where most Charlie Manuel wasn't.
Yeah, but
we could get Charlie on, and I guarantee you, Charlie didn't go.
Totally fair.
That to me, I think it's too much of, well, this is what I like. And the fact that they discuss it with Bryce Harper, and he goes, well, I'm a 3-hole hitter. That's what I am.
I just don't think the one example of Charlie Manuel is fair to say most managers don't do this.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if you're talking about, though, it's an approach. And what it is an approach is, to me, it's a substitute teacher approach.
Right. There's no right and wrong here. That's the thing. Like, it can't be framed.
But you can't say that it's right. You're correct.
Right. It's just
correct.
Your preference is a different way than what the Phillies have done.
My preference is that the guy who makes out the lineup and the guy who decides for a team leads and doesn't succeed to, okay, well, Andrew, what do you want to do? Well, Connor, what do you want to do?
But there is
I want Scott to be the boss and tell us what to do.
But there is comfort. Like, how many times have you seen in baseball the 8-hole hitters hitting like 300 to start the season, and then people are like, oh, move them up in the order. And the second they move up, they see better pitching, and then they stink.
This is more to the, I want Trey Turner to have more than 14 games, because that's too small a sample size. Don't pull the plug just because you don't
By the way, one more note to this 3-hole hitter thing and nobody on base. This is all of baseball.
It is.
Like the Chicago White Sox, who won 30 games in a baseball season, are a part of this statistic. So I'm curious how many times
did
Harper come up to bat with nobody on, 2 outs.
And I would imagine it's less
than a lot of teams. Yeah,
than a lot of those.
All right, coming up next, we continue all of our discussion. We'll check our text line, I promise, at 610-632-0975. Also, a future Hall of Famer in the NBA could be on the move again. kind of exhausting at this point, but obviously we're going to discuss it. It's Kincade Salciunas, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Fanatic Sports Update.
Sixers drop another one. I'm Connor Thomas, and the Sixers fell to the Knicks last night, 110-105, the final score in that one, and the conversation continues to grow. We've been having it pretty much all week about the Sixers trying to improve their draft pick in the final stretch of the season. Now, remember, they have a top 6 protected first-round pick, so if it's 6 or better, they keep it. If it's 7 or worse, it goes to the Oklahoma City Thunder. So with that in mind, is it in the team's best interest over the remaining games to try and improve that draft pick position and get into a better spot where they could keep that first-round pick after a disappointing season? Paul Hudrick joined the best show ever yesterday and talked about it.
Till I see a game where Tyrese Maxey just goes nuts and scores 40 and they rally behind him and they win, I think this team is better off trying to accumulate losses.
And a lot of people may feel that way, but does the organization? It doesn't seem that they've gotten to that point yet. We'll keep you updated. They're off till Saturday when they'll host the Warriors. Flyers take on the Penguins tonight at 7:30. You can hear that game live here on 97.5 The Fanatic. And the NFL Combine gets going today as the top college prospects will take the field in Indianapolis for their workouts. We'll keep you updated on all of the news out of the Combine, including the discourse surrounding the tush push. This update brought to you by Mercedes-Benz. At Mercedes-Benz, there's a reason they go the extra mile, from testing their vehicles to creating AI that can anticipate your needs on the road. They demand that every car is worthy of their star because it's Mercedes-Benz. I'm Connor Thomas for the home of the 76ers and Flyers, 97.5 The Fanatic.
Philadelphia.
health trade. Let's talk about the text line. Connor, what do we have on the text line so far this morning? We've been busy. We've had Kevin on. We've gotten the Phillies lineup discussion. We've been beep-bopping around. It's been a lot of fun today.
All over the place.
I can't believe it's already 9:30. What do we have on the text line about any of our topics so far this morning, including the sacrifice of Paul George?
All right, let's start with the sacrifice of Paul George because we have people checking in with an alternative theory that I kind of subscribe to.
Okay.
So we have a check-in here from Lou from Langhorne who says, the truth is that Paul George shut down the podcast because he doesn't want to have to talk about what's going on with the team right now. It's hard to do that podcast without people commenting on it, that they want to hear what's wrong with the Sixers, and Paul George is trying to avoid having to discuss
Well, then again, he
it.
doesn't have to read the comments. Like
you don't have to be Bill Colarulo with the chat room.
He loves his chat board, man.
Oh, my gosh. Did you hear what they said in the chat room?
I get it, though. I think
you don't have to do that.
I think, though, if you have a platform in this circumstance and a lot of stuff is going on with your basketball team, there may feel like an obligation to address.
But you can cheer the people that aren't talking about it.
He's also got to address the media literally X amount of times a week already about the struggles of the team. So.
Right, so he probably doesn't want to have another platform open where a lot of people are pestering him about, hey, what's going on with the Sixers? I could see that.
I got you. It's a logical theory.
Very logical theory.
It's a logical theory.
Real quick before we get one more text.
I like mine better.
Shefty reporting that surgery is not advisable for Abdul Carter. He will work out on his pro day, March 28th. So
that's because he's a tough dude.
Just a little update there.
He's a hell of a player.
What he's got to do is he's got to come up here and take one of the Salciunas gummies, and we'll see you at 32.
Damn right,
Did you already
man.
hear him, though? He's already renounced his Eagles fandom.
Well, he had to.
Well, he knows he's not going to make it to 32.
He has to. Yeah.
So he said, I celebrated my last day as an Eagles fan with the Super Bowl parade.
Damn right, man.
And by the way, though,
good way to go out.
That is a young man. That is a young man who's on the freaking ball because that's what you have to do.
Yeah, exactly.
You got to say, now it's about being somewhere else.
All right, give us one more text.
All right, JB in Pottstown checks in on the tush push and says, what's even funnier about the tush push, guys, is the Eagles only ran that play 4% of their offensive plays for the entire 2024 season. So they want to ban a play that's run 4% of the year?
That averaged probably 1.5 yards.
By the way, though, I'm floored by that. I did not know that it was 4%. That's a lot more than I ever would have guessed.
I have done no checking on that number.
Okay. Because I'm going to say that's a lot less than I would have guessed.
I'm inclined to believe, but yeah, it could be higher, lower.
I would have guessed a lot less than 4%.
I just still can't believe the hypocrisy of.
Oh, it's amazing.
Of Sean McDermott. All right, so there could be one potential out of Paul George. One.
All right.
And just the other day on Tuesday, because Amy was telling us, look, he wants to go to the West Coast. So I was looking at
the West Coast guy.
I was looking at the max contracts of players that are out west that could potentially be on the move.
Luka.
No, that already happened. Bradley Beal was a name that I mentioned. And this wasn't us saying we want this person. It's just if it gets to the point where they have to move on from Paul George and you have to make the money work, Beal was one of the names because the Phoenix Suns are a disaster.
No.
Jimmy Butler, who knows if he's staying there long term in Golden State with the Warriors? Like, I don't know what
he wants a contract.
Yeah, I don't know what his future is.
Yeah.
And there were a couple other names that we mentioned, but nothing really moved the needle. Now, yesterday, all over ESPN, it's being reported that Kevin Durant will most likely be on the move this offseason. Stop me if you've heard that before.
Yes, I have.
And that's why I say it's an exhausting conversation because Kevin Durant has played for, 5 teams now?
I mean, he's always on the move.
Oklahoma City,
Brooklyn,
Golden State,
and Phoenix, so 4.
All right, 4 teams. So he will be playing
and you think
for
of
his
an all-time great like that.
All-time.
That played years of his prime bouncing around.
Yeah, dude,
which is crazy to me.
This year, he is, he's got to be 35? How old is he, Kevin Durant?
I don't know. How many is he in burner account years?
I think he's
not
done.
sure.
Isn't he done with that?
Oh, BS.
Kevin Durant, at the age of, 36, is averaging 27 points a game this year.
Would have loved it. Yeah.
It's not his fault that the Phoenix Suns stink. I'm sure roster construction doesn't help. You have 2 small guards, one of which doesn't play a lick of defense in Bradley Beal.
Why would you ever have given Bradley Beal that contract?
I don't know.
If you're them.
So Kevin Durant looks like he's going to be on the move. And if he's on the move, then that's one of your potential saving graces. Paul George goes out west. where he wants to be. Kevin Durant comes here.
Kevin Durant would love
part owner of the Union.
Well, he likes the Mid-Atlantic.
He does. He's born in the D.C.
Right.
In Washington D.C. He's played. Part of the reason why he came to Brooklyn was to be closer to home and of course build a super team.
You can take that train.
So there's a chance. Now look, he'd be 36 and then eventually 37.
It's better than what you got.
Exactly.
I would do that.
It's just the same old though. It's just another old player, but he's still a freaking stud.
I would drive to Phoenix. I would take the drive to Phoenix. Whatever has to happen. It'll be a fun road trip. Be fun.
So that's your one potential out. And the sad thing is, I'm talking about this on February 27th.
It is sad.
That's the sad. That's why I'm not going, oh my God, there could be a chance. It's February 27th. The Sixers are in the middle of a season that's over.
Can I share one thing? It's like when you have to read people's comments, Connor.
Yeah.
People go, why don't you guys stop complaining about the state of the Sixers and just get Daryl Morey on and ask him yourself?
It's been tried.
He's welcome anytime. And we've made that clear, and we reach out to do that. Believe me, we would love that. And I know the kind of guy he is, he would understand the frustration, and he wouldn't be offended by people being upset with the situation.
I like Daryl Morey as a human being.
I like him a lot.
I've had the opportunity to not just talk to him on the phone, sit down with him. I enjoy Daryl Morey as a human being.
He goes, it's easy for you guys to rip the Sixers and some of the status of the team right now when you're not talking directly to the guy. Dude, he could come on anytime. We'd love to. We're the flagship station.
Also, I'm sorry, but what is Daryl Morey going to tell us about this team right now that's going to make us feel any better?
He's not going to make us feel any better, but he can answer some questions. Why was why the desperation to sign? And this is not 2020 hindsight. It was just voted on SportsCenter this week the worst contract in sports right now that any team is sitting on.
Right.
Joel Embiid. It was not 2020 hindsight to say, why did you need to do that last offseason when there was so much physical uncertainty? That kind of discussion has to happen.
Yeah, but whether the thought process was proper or not doesn't change the point that we're at right now. We could get something out of a Daryl Morey interview, but the fact of the matter is this Sixer season has gone down the drain, and they don't have an easy way out.
There's also a reason why it's gone down the drain, because their insurance policy was another oft-injured player. And so one of the questions I would have for Daryl Morey, because his belief, and look, this is on record, he talks about this all the time, that veteran players win in the NBA. And I understand to an extent what he's saying, that veteran players typically win. Remember the historic age of 27? That was the year that the superstars won. All those superstars had young pieces around them, though. It wasn't just a bunch of old guys. Now, Kawhi Leonard, different story, because he played with Tim Duncan, Tony Parker, and Manu Ginobili, three Hall of Famers.
And you and I can both speak to it personally. Daryl Morey is a guy who is more than willing in a situation to explain to you thought processes and things like that. He's not an executive that's like, you guys don't know what the hell you're talking about. He'll engage and give you his point of view.
But everybody in life, there comes a time where you realize that something's not working and it's time to adapt. And here's the one problem with Daryl Morey and the Sixers over the years, with him as the president of basketball operations, is they haven't adapted. It's been, all right, we signed a bunch of one-year veterans last year. We're going to do the same thing this year. It's a bunch of veterans, but it's like Eric Gordon. What did Eric Gordon do for me this year? What did Reggie Jackson do for me this year?
No, you're totally right. My thing is, I don't really care about the why we're here. We know why we're here. We can easily point to the reasons why the Sixers are where they are, whether it was a good decision at the time or not. We know how we got to this point, and anything going forward, we're not going to be able to talk about yet with the president of basketball operations because they're in the middle of the season. So he's not going to tell us, well, this offseason, this is what we're going to do, because the company line right now is we're going to try and compete. We're going to try and make it into the final play-in spot. We're going to try and make a run. You heard Paul George talk about it when he gave up his sacrifice of podcasting. So to all the people who want us to grill Daryl Morey on this, you know how we got here. Nobody knows where we're going from here yet, and he probably doesn't even at this point because it's a very tough situation to get out of.
He knows he's going to get Kevin Durant this offseason.
Yeah, sure he does. I'd love that.
Dude, you know that the Sixers name will be spreading like wildfire.
Oh, yeah.
This offseason when it comes to Kevin Durant. Doesn't mean it's going to happen.
But it will be spreading like wildfire.
Look, he called the Lakers for LeBron last year. Not this season, but last year. So you know he's going to attempt it.
Yes, but
and
prior
you
to
have
that.
the max contract player to make the move. And you know how we say we need to make the money to work? The Suns need to make the money to work too. So
they do.
They may not be in love with Paul George, but if Kevin Durant wants out, they got to do what they got to do.
How with their current roster though, would Paul George fit?
I mean, yeah, because they don't really have that wing player.
That's true.
So once you lose Kevin Durant, you're trading wing for wing. They kind of occupy a similar space.
Simon wants to know, how did midterm night go? And where would Paul George's podcast? What kind of midterm grade would that have gotten? The midterms are great.
It's good.
I've graded eight of them, and the average grade is like a 93.
Wow.
94. These kids kicked backside.
Now, did the seventh person that get a 93? Like, are they disappointed?
Well, I don't know. It'd be because
Nick Sirianni got an A-, but because he was 18th.
Well, no, only one. It's a scaling of 1 to 10, of 0 to 10, and you can be like a 9.8,
okay,
9.5, whatever. Only one student got a 10.
Oh,
there usually isn't many 10s.
Yeah, but you know what? If I got the 9.8, I'm not complaining that I'm second.
No, you're not. You're pretty happy with it.
You guys are both 10s to me.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Wow.
Connor, since you got rid of the mustache and everything, you know
it's worked for you.
You've sort of been like I think we decided you're like at least a 9.
Sorry, the Magic Mustache had to win the Super Bowl real quick.
Oh, please.
I don't know what to tell you guys.
It didn't work for the Phillies.
I didn't have the mustache.
No, that was the shirt.
Yes, the shirt.
Mustache greater than shirt.
That's not coming back.
Oh, it might.
The unlucky shirt's not coming
if
back.
They need it.
Is the unlucky shirt walking by itself yet? Because that thing stank.
I can't imagine the closet that it's hanging in.
It is Kincade Salciunas with our man Connor Thomas. Key 3 coming your way next. Also, your text messages on any of our topics today. 97.5 The Fanatic.
The Philadelphia 76ers.
What was that name again?
Jim Nantz.
I'm just yelling over because I didn't get to hear.
Because of Ray. Yeah.
I didn't get to hear the end of Ray's spectacular call last night.
It was a spectacular.
But we used to do a Sunday segment on my ESPN radio show and on CBS. We did a segment during football season and basketball season of color analysts screaming over the play-by-play guy, and it was the worst of it. And it was that would have made it this week. In fact, I will. I don't know if anyone's kept the segment alive.
Good for Ray. He'll be all over the network.
We love. No, wait, hey, if Ray gets on 6 o'clock Sports Center tonight,
awesome.
He's thanking us.
By the way, Bill and I'll be hanging out with Bill tonight.
It's good to hang out with Bill.
We are going to be doing the show from the Sixers Youth Gala tonight at 6 o'clock.
It's Gala, by the way.
That's what I said, but he tells me Gala.
It's Gala. He's pulling a prank on you and you're falling for it.
Is it?
Yeah, dude. It's a 4-letter word. You can handle this one, Salciunas.
You know what? Amy said. Amy said Gala the other day too, unless she's part of the act.
And she very possibly could be, but it's Gala.
I know. Doing it for John.
All right.
Amy was in the room when I was telling you that.
Yeah, she said Gala too.
She did.
So it's all part of the prank, huh?
I don't know.
See,
maybe it was
too easily influenced by others.
You followed Harry and Meghan and weren't following. This isn't the day. This isn't the day for you to act offended with me.
No, I'm offended. Anyways, Sixers Youth Gala. Bill and I will be there tonight doing the show.
And nothing says gala like you and Colarulo.
Well, I'll be dressed
nothing
up.
says gala. Oh, you will. You dress like $1 million.
Come on, man.
It just nothing says it more than you and Colarulo.
By the way,
he gets out one of his lawyer suits tonight, I bet.
By the way,
yes,
we gotta get your boy on.
Who?
Schlereth.
We can get Schlereth. No, Schlereth's show is the same time as us now. His show on Fox.
He believes the tush push should be banned.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah, dude.
You know what? Maybe we can get him to tape something. I'll see what I can do because his show airs. He's now on the show in New York with Craig Carton and them.
Well, what was his nickname again?
Stink. Oh.
And we're talking about
you two would have fit in.
We're talking about player safety.
So here's his reasoning. I credit Awful Announcing for getting the quote. Here's my issue with the tush push and why I think it should be banned. You can't do it on the defensive side. If you lined up on the defensive side of the ball with linebackers sitting behind defensive tackles and linebackers shoving defensive tackles through the line of scrimmage, I think that's illegal. You can't do it. I don't know. Is that is that illegal?
No, not along the on the goal line. It's not. On the goal line, you've got people lined up in a clump.
Yeah, as far as I'm aware, there's no restrictions on defensive alignment. There are restrictions on offensive formation.
Now,
alignment.
there has to be something we're not understanding about his point because Stink knows.
Here's what I think it is, and we've had some people mention this before.
Okay.
But you can not put all 11 guys on defense on the line right there for fear of a fake, right? Like you have to defend the entire field, whereas the offense, who knows what they're doing, can stack all those guys interiorly and could just have a numbers advantage every time.
Right, because they can't. Right, exactly. They'd be ready for.
By
a
the way,
fake.
did not get Rich McKay will not join us on this topic, but I believe it'd be much ado about nothing is sort of how it's been portrayed to me. Is that there won't be enough votes to overturn this? They're not getting enough votes of people that want to actually
because their reasonings are nonsense.
Well, once the reasoning of injury goes out the window, and Sean McDermott's fake story goes out the window, then it absolutely would just be sour grapes at that point.
Yeah, at that point, like they
can't
literally have nothing else to really base it off.
There's nothing to base it on. There is absolutely nothing to base it on. By the way, so for 25 years, 26 seasons, they've changed this rule. That it's been changed. And now all of a sudden it's a problem because somebody took the rules of the game and understood how to use it differently? It's ridiculous. I'm surprised because I got to tell you, the legendary Mike Missanelli, I'm surprised at his anti-stance to this.
Oh, he's about physics.
Okay. First of all, I've listened to Mike since forever. I've never heard Mike really being into the discussion of physics.
Was that Mike's argument, the one that I just kind of tried to make there? I think that might have been where I heard it, where it was just like the number of players, you can't defend it the way adequately because you have to be ready for the fake.
It was about the force behind
Yeah, I don't want a Bogart to take from anybody, especially not the great Mike Missanelli. But if so,
there's a lot of takes you can Bogart on, but Mike, this wouldn't be one of the good ones.
I don't know. I understand where he's coming from. Now, I don't want to play bands, but I do think there will come a point, right, where if this becomes more of like a league-wide thing, like if other teams figure out ways to execute it, and just 4th and 2 in becomes automatic for 50% of the teams in the league, there may be something you have to do. But we're not at that point yet.
We're not anywhere near that point, right?
The NFL wants more points.
Yeah, the NFL wants scoring.
They would be totally okay with offenses staying on the field.
Well, the NFL doesn't want more points. They want more excitement. And with points comes excitement. But if a play comes in that they deem not good for the product, they're going to try and take it out.
And the funny thing is it's caused this, I would argue with them that this play has caused so much discord that it's good for the sport.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Because it creates that discord of people. Ooh.
Here's a blast from the past name that somebody tweeted out yesterday. Remember Daniel Tosh, the comedian?
Yeah, Tosh.0.
He did a whole segment on it. He had another podcast. Everyone's got a podcast these days.
Yes.
He did a whole segment on the tush push.
Okay. Was it good?
It was okay.
Did you see a clip of it? Or?
He would like to see them run the tush push every single time for a whole game. So, it wasn't that funny. But it's made, what I'm trying to get at is it's surpassed sports now.
Right. Now it's gone into the...
It's not just 97.5 The Fanatic and ESPN talking about it, right?
Or Jimmy Fallon.
It's now comedians are talking about it on their podcast. That's how much this has led to it.
I'll tell you this right now, and Bill Colarulo back there listening, get a towel or whatever you need to cover yourself up. When Nick Sirianni, if one day, this projects out, and he becomes one of the great coaches in NFL history.
Then Bill will need the towel.
And he ends up in Canton. On his plaque is going to be developed the unstoppable tush push play. It will be part of his, not that he gets a plaque because it's a bust, but part of his Hall of Fame introduction will be that you're looking at one of the great plays in NFL history, unstoppable, developed by this coach.
Damn right, man.
Wait a minute, that's a great Mike Missanelli.
Yeah, he just walked in.
He needed a pen.
Graced us with his presence.
Coming your way at 10 a.m.
He needed a pen.
It's time now for the Kincade Salciunas Key 3 best minutes from today's show.
Now, the Kincade Salciunas Key 3, today's best.
Today's discussion is, wow, this team was truly special, not just for how talented they were, right? We knew that Saquon Barkley was special, and A.J. Brown, Devontae. Obviously, the defense caught the world by storm. We didn't think that they were going to be number one.
No.
But this defense, talent-wise, was truly special. But what else makes this team very special? I know we've talked about this a lot. You don't want to give too much credit for the person that sets the fire.
Putting it out.
To put it out.
No.
But I will give them credit for them being able to fix a lot of the issues that they created.
Correct.
In order to overcome it to the point where they're Super Bowl champions.
No, I mean, when you're champions, when you get to that level, it's all praise. It's amazing praise. I don't give credit for fixing what you break, but I do give credit for you're a champion. These guys are champs, and they deserve all the love, all the praise, all the respect. And guys like Nick Sirianni really overcame a lot.
Yeah.
And it has been to all of our benefit.
You know what I can't wait for? It's going to happen at some point this offseason. There's going to be a Tim McManus article or a Jeff McClain article of the real story of what the hell was going on the first half of the season or maybe first third of the season, because I don't think these grades got better over the first couple weeks of the season.
No.
We know the bye week was a big part of this season, and then obviously the next week is when Nick Sirianni has his meltdown against the Browns. I don't think
the bye week, these grades may have actually been lower.
It could have been
on a lot of these issues.
They were losing.
Yeah.
I mean, they were 2-2,
but they were not playing well, and they were not doing what
they barely beat the Saints. Bad loss against the Falcons. Horrible loss against the Bucs. Granted, all the injuries, but it was a bad loss. A team that didn't even look like they showed up to play.
You barely survive a terrible Saints team.
Yeah.
And then it all comes together.
And then it comes together. And so I can't wait for that story to come out. What was the moment? It wasn't just the offensive lineman going to Sirianni saying, let's run the ball more. That may have been the moment that changed the offense for the better. But what was the moment that kind of got everybody in shape? And I'm not saying physically. I'm saying mentally.
That may have been the catalyst to it, though, is that, look, it's anything. When things start to feel good around your work, everything goes a little better at work.
Yeah.
When you're on a little bit of a roll and you feel like things are positive, it makes every work day better. So maybe the change on the offense is exactly what they needed to jumpstart some positivity. Everybody feels better walking in the building. Everybody winning cures a lot.
It does. Paul George's podcast, I don't know how much it impacts the team, but I have to laugh that he thinks he did something yesterday. And I really believe that Paul George dropped that line and thought...
To the great fans of Philadelphia?
Like, he thought this was going to get,
that?
like, a pat on the back or, like, a thanks PG. Dude, your team, before last night's loss, was 20-37, spiraling out of control. I don't think your podcast had anything to do with it, but you're acting like I did something for the city. I'm doing something for this team. And, dude, quite frankly, you've done nothing. Our man, Kevin Agandi. Kevin, good morning. How you doing, man?
All I care about is making sure Tyrese Maxey is good to go, and this team can, in a draft that I think has a ton of talent that can lock in a top 6 pick. That to me is now the priority. I would make as a priority for the Sixers, and then you got to reevaluate what you want to do with Paul George and his future in Philadelphia.
Look, you think about it, so they barely beat the Browns, right? The Sirianni meltdown day was they barely beat Cleveland.
I've said it before. It barely beat the Browns at home, barely beat the Jags at home, barely beat Carolina at home, barely beat a terrible Saints team. 4 of their wins were against 4 of the worst teams in football, and they looked bad in every one of those games.
But then after the Browns game, I know the other games happened afterward, but they beat the Browns 20-16. Then they just destroy the Giants and destroy the Bengals. So something happened. Something clicked.
Bengals game was a one-score game in the fourth quarter. Let's be honest.
And then they beat them by 20.
I understand.
I'm just fascinated to find out one day what clicked for the Eagles. And then all of a sudden they turn things around. All right, that's our key 3. Now, real quick, during the key 3, because unfortunately the key 3's built together earlier, so we didn't have the Gala versus Gala segment in there.
By the way, I don't believe Amy sabotaged you.
However, British English.
Oh, yes.
It is Gala. American English is Gala. According to the dictionary.
Right.
Oxford. Connor went to Oxford. Connor knows all about Oxford.
Connor, you went to Oxford.
And they spoke the British English over there.
Right. Now, I would say Gala. Now, I thought John was serious when he said Gala. And John...
I was sort of, but I was sort of messing around.
And the reason why I fell for it is because you get offended, legitimately offended, when people mispronounce names.
I do. Like when people... No, more about people with their last names.
Yeah.
Or people change people's names and add S's to them.
When you...
I got you.
Because you corrected me.
It was bad work on my part.
It was. However, it was correct.
No, it really wasn't, though. I didn't mean it to be
because
correct.
Is this not the United States of America?
I did not mean for it to be correct.
What, are you trying to bring British English over here, John?
Hell no.
Philadelphia took down the British.
Hell no. I'm glad we did.
Man.
I'm glad we did. And you can have Great Britain. You can have it. You can have it.
What else can we have?
I know you can have life-saving cancer research. It saved my life by supporting the AACR, the American Association for Cancer Research, just like FT Young Heating and Air Conditioning does. Make a donation today at 975thefanatic.com/AACR. I'm living proof cancer research saves lives.
Well, make sure you're listening tonight at 6 when Bill and I will be doing the show live from the Sixers Youth Gala or Gala, however you want to pronounce it. We'll be speaking to a couple of guests.
Bill's getting the lawyer suit out.
Damn right he is.
He's going to be back looking sharp.
I'm going to get the suit that Mom and Dad got me from Kohl's, damn it. All right, Mike Missanelli Show comes your way next.
You look good at my Hall of Fame night. You look great that night.
I'm wearing the exact same thing.
You look good, though.
Talk to you tomorrow morning. Mike Missanelli Show next here on 97.5 The Fanatic.